What if I told you there's a version of Naruto where he doesn't just become Hokage, he becomes a literal reality-bending god who can cut through dimensions, manipulate domains like Sukuna, and maintain perfect harmony with Kurama? What if instead of struggling with the Nine Tails for years, they became instant allies because of an ancient bloodline connection that changes everything? This is What If Naruto Had Sukuna's Powers. Let's go.
The night sky over Konoha burned crimson as the nine-tailed fox's roars shattered the peace. Buildings crumbled under massive paws as shinobi fought desperately against the seemingly unstoppable beast. At the battle's epicenter, Minato Namikaze faced not only the fox, but the masked man who had orchestrated this catastrophe. "I won't let you destroy everything we've built," Minato declared, his legendary speed carrying him through space-time itself as he prepared the sealing that would save the village at the cost of his life. Miles away, Kushina Uzumaki's crimson hair splayed across the ritual altar, her chakra chains restraining the monstrous fox as her life force ebbed. Beside her lay their newborn son, Naruto, oblivious to how his destiny was about to change forever. "I'm sorry, Naruto," Kushina whispered, her violet eyes filling with tears. "Your father and I won't be there to see you grow." As her strength faded, ancient memories stirred within her, legends passed down through generations of Uzumaki, tales of an ancestor whose power rivaled the sage of six paths himself. As Minato completed the 8 trigram seal, channeling the fox's yin chakra into himself and preparing to seal the yang half into their son, something unexpected happened. The chakra flow spiked, readings fluctuating wildly beyond anything the 4th Hokage had anticipated. "This isn't right," Minato gasped, his expert sealing knowledge unable to account for the anomaly. "Something's interfering with the transfer." Inside the infant Naruto, as Kurama's chakra poured into his tiny chakra network, a dormant genetic memory awakened. The trauma of the sealing triggered something ancient, a bloodline so old it had been forgotten by all but the most ancient beings. Within the maelstrom of energy, Kurama's consciousness suddenly flared with recognition. "Impossible," the Nine Tails growled, his rage momentarily replaced by shock. "That energy, Sukuna." The fox's memory stretched back a millennium, to a time before the ninja villages, before even the sage distributed the tailed beasts. To a time when Kurama had another partner, a being of terrifying power and unmatched battle prowess, Ryomen Sukuna, the legendary sorcerer whose blood would eventually flow into the Uzumaki lineage. As the sealing completed, 3 distinct energies merged within the infant: Naruto's pure life force, Kurama's primordial chakra, and something else, the cursed energy bloodline of Sukuna, awakened after centuries of dormancy. With his dying breath, Minato sealed the fate of his son. "He'll be a hero," he insisted to the 3rd Hokage who arrived moments later. Something extraordinary is happening within him. I don't understand it, but I feel it's powerful." Kushina's fading consciousness sensed the change as well. "The Ancient One," she whispered, fragments of clan lore surfacing in her final moments. The cursed blood flows again. As the parents died protecting their child, sealing complete, Kurama found himself trapped within a familiar, yet different energy signature, one he hadn't encountered for 1,000 years. Inside the mindscape that would become their shared domain, the Nine Tails gazed at the infant vessel with something approaching reverence. "So, after all these centuries, you return to me, old friend," Kurama murmured, his massive head lowering to examine the sleeping infant. "Or at least, your power does. This vessel carries the blood of Sukuna, my first partner before humans learned to hate and fear us." His massive tails swayed thoughtfully. "Perhaps this imprisonment won't be as intolerable as I expected." The 3rd Hokage, returning to the aftermath of destruction, ordered his ANBU to investigate the unusual energy readings detected during the sealing. Their findings proved inconclusive. The signature was unlike anything in their records, neither pure chakra nor any known Kekkai Genkai. "Whatever it is," Hiruzen Thurtobi noted with concern, "it appears stable for now. Monitor the boy closely, but tell no one of these findings." As baby Naruto was placed in the orphanage, None could have predicted how this unique convergence of energies would transform not just his life, but the fate of the entire shinobi world. Inside the infant's developing mind, Kurama spoke his first words to his new vessel. "You and I are bound by more than just this seal, little one. We share a legacy older than these hidden villages, older even than the hatred between our kinds. When you're ready, I'll show you what it means to wield both chakra and cursed energy, just as he once did." Years passed, and young Naruto grew in the shadow of village hatred, unaware of the power dormant within him. The villagers saw only the fox, not the child, certainly not the extraordinary bloodline he carried. At age 4, the first signs appeared during a particularly vicious episode of bullying. Cornered against a wall by children twice his age, something inside Naruto shifted. "Leave me alone," he cried, and as his emotions peaked, his eyes flashed crimson, not with the fox's influence, but with something more ancient. The bullies suddenly found themselves thrown backward by an invisible force, landing several feet away, with no visible wounds, but intense pain across their bodies. "Monster!" they screamed, fleeing in terror. Naruto stood trembling, uncomprehending what had happened, but feeling something stir deep within. A presence both separate from and connected to the demonic energy he occasionally sensed inside himself. By age 6, these incidents had become frequent enough to draw the attention of the NBU guards assigned to watch him. During one particularly vivid nightmare, Naruto's consciousness was pulled into his mindscape for the first time, standing before the massive cage that housed the Nine Tails. "So, you finally come to meet me," Kurama growled, his massive eyes studying the small boy. "Do you know who I am, child?" "You're the monster inside me," Naruto replied, showing remarkable courage despite his fear. "The one everyone hates me for." The fox's laughter echoed through the mental chamber. "I am Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. But you, Naruto Uzumaki, are far more interesting than you realize." The massive beast shifted, bringing his face closer to the bars. "You carry not one, but two extraordinary legacies within you." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked, his young mind struggling to comprehend. "Your blood carries the essence of one who was once my partner, long before your hidden villages existed. His name was Ryomen Sukuna, and he was the most powerful sorcerer of his age, perhaps of any age." Kurama's tail swayed with something approaching nostalgia. "The night I was sealed within you, something awakened in your blood. His power, his cursed techniques." "Cursed techniques?" Naruto repeated wide-eyed. "A power system entirely different from chakra, yet compatible with it. Sukuna mastered both, as could you." The fox's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "The fools who shun you have no idea what potential you hold. If you're willing to learn, I can teach you to harness both energies, just as he once did." This encounter marked the beginning of an unusual partnership. Unlike the antagonistic relationship they might have developed, Kurama's recognition of Sukuna's bloodline created an immediate bond of respect. Each night, Naruto would enter his mindscape, and Kurama would guide him in understanding the dual nature of his powers. Chakra is drawn from physical and spiritual energy within yourself, Kurama explained during one session. Cursed energy manifests from negative emotions, but that doesn't make it evil. It's a natural force like gravity or lightning, neither good nor bad in itself. At age 7, Naruto began secret training under Kurama's guidance, learning to consciously manipulate both energies. During the day, he maintained the facade of the class clown, the troublemaker, but at night, in abandoned training grounds or the depths of the forest, he practiced techniques that hadn't been seen in the shinobi world for a millennium. "Feel the difference," Kurama instructed. "Chakra flows like water through channels. Cursed energy radiates outward like heat from a flame. One is contained, the other permeates." By 8, Naruto could manifest visible cursed energy, a purplish-black aura that responded to his will. He could enhance his physical abilities far beyond what should have been possible for a child his age, leaping impossible distances, striking with unnatural precision. "Your ancestor was feared for his technique, called dismantle, the ability to create invisible slashes through space itself," Kurama explained. "Focus your cursed energy into a cutting edge, then project it outward." The first successful attempt left a training post severed cleanly in half, with no visible indication of what had cut it. Naruto stared in amazement at his hands. That's incredible, he whispered. That's just the beginning, Kurama replied, satisfaction evident in his voice. There's also Cleave, a variant that adjusts its cutting power based on the target's own cursed energy or chakra level. Against powerful opponents, it becomes stronger. Against civilians or the weak, it weakens itself. So, I can't accidentally hurt someone badly if they're not strong enough to defend themselves? Precisely. It was one of the ways Sukuna maintained control over his overwhelming power. By age 9, Naruto's academy performance began showing subtle improvements. Not enough to draw suspicion, but the dead last gradually moved up in rankings. His taijutsu, once sloppy and predictable, became precise and effective. His tactical thinking during mock battles caught Iruka's attention. Naruto, that was an impressive strategy, the teacher commented after one training session. How did you come up with that counter? Naruto just grinned his fox-like smile. I guess I just got lucky, Iruka-sensei, but it wasn't luck. It was Kurama's 1,000 years of battle experience being filtered through Naruto's growing tactical mind, combined with the combat instincts inherited through Sukuna's bloodline. At age 10, during a heated argument with Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto accidentally accessed his cursed energy in public for the first time. As emotions flared, a barely visible purplish aura flickered around him for just a moment. But it was enough for the observant Uchiha to notice. What was that? Sasuke demanded, eyes narrowing. What was what? Naruto replied innocently, internally panicking as Kurama warned him to control his emotions. That energy, it wasn't chakra. Sasuke's perceptiveness had always been sharp. You're seeing things, bastard. Naruto scoffed, walking away while his heart pounded. That night, Kurama's lecture was particularly stern. You must maintain better control. The Uchiha are dangerous observers. Their eyes miss little. I know, Naruto grumbled. But he makes me so angry sometimes. Channel that anger properly, and you'll surpass him in ways he can't imagine, Kurama counseled. But reveal your abilities too soon, and you'll become a target for those who fear what they don't understand. By age 11, Naruto had mastered the basic applications of dismantle, creating invisible cutting forces that could slice through solid objects. During a private training session, he accidentally cut through a steel kunai and the tree behind it and the boulder behind that. Whoa, he exclaimed, staring at the clean cuts extending far beyond his intended target. Your control needs work, Kurama noted dryly. Sukuna could control the range, power, and precision of each cut. You're still broadcasting your energy in all directions. At 12, just before graduation, Naruto had become something of an enigma to his instructors. His written test scores remained mediocre, deliberately so, as Kurama had advised, keeping his intelligence hidden. But his practical skills had improved dramatically. His taijutsu matches against other students often ended quickly, with movements too fast for many to follow. He's hiding something, Mizuki commented to Iruka after one particularly impressive display. Perhaps he's finally taking his training seriously, Iruka suggested, hopeful that his favorite troublemaker was finding his path. The graduation exam approached, and Naruto faced a dilemma. Kurama had advised him to maintain his mediocre facade, but the boy's pride wanted recognition for his true abilities. Show enough to pass, but not enough to raise serious questions, the fox advised. Your time will come soon enough. The day of the exam, Naruto performed just well enough in the written portion, excellently in the taijutsu demonstration, but deliberately failed the clone technique, his supposed weakness. When Mizuki approached with the false opportunity to steal the forbidden scroll, Naruto recognized the deception immediately thanks to Kurama's insight. He's lying, the fox noted. His heartbeat changed, and his chakra fluctuated. So what should I do? Naruto asked mentally. Play along. This could be an opportunity to reveal some of your abilities while appearing to be the hero. That night, when Mizuki attacked Iruka, believing Naruto would be busy with the scroll, he found himself facing not only the academy teacher, but a surprisingly competent Naruto who moved with precision and power beyond what anyone expected from the dead last. You're not just a demon fox, are you? Mizuki snarled as Naruto dodged attacks that should have connected easily. There's something else wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me, Naruto replied calmly, settling into a combat stance Kurama had taught him, an ancient form predating modern shinobi taijutsu. but there's definitely something wrong with anyone who betrays the village. The fight was brief, but spectacular. Naruto's shadow clones appeared not as the sickly illusions he'd produced in class, but as perfect duplicates, each moving with the same fluid grace and precision as the original. When Mizuki attempted to strike Iruka, Naruto's hand extended, and though no visible attack launched, the traitor's weapon suddenly split in two. "How did you?" Mizuki didn't finish his question before Naruto's enhanced strength sent him flying into a tree, unconscious. Iruka stared in amazement. "Naruto, when did you learn to fight like that?" The boy smiled sheepishly, rubbing the back of his head in his characteristic gesture. "I've been practicing in secret, Iruka-sensei. I wanted to surprise everyone." As Iruka presented him with his own headband, declaring him a true shinobi of the leaf, Naruto felt a surge of pride and anticipation. His journey was just beginning. The team assignments came as no surprise to Naruto, who had long suspected the village would place him with the last Uchiha. As he sat in the classroom waiting for their chronically late sensei, Naruto contemplated the path ahead. Kakashi Hatake. Kurama mused within their shared mindscape. The copy ninja. He possesses a Sharingan, which means he might be able to perceive your cursed energy if you're careless. So I should keep holding back? Naruto asked mentally, feeling disappointed. For now, but soon, you'll need to reveal at least some of your abilities to your team. Trust is essential in combat situations. When Kakashi finally arrived and led them to the training ground for the bell test, Naruto faced a dilemma. The Jonin clearly underestimated him, expecting the dead last performance from Academy records. This presented both an opportunity and a challenge. He's testing your teamwork more than your individual skills, Kurama advised. Show enough to earn respect, but focus on convincing the others to work together. The test began, and while Sasuke and Sakura hid, Naruto stood openly challenging Kakashi, a move that appeared foolish but was actually calculated. As the Jonin pulled out his book, signaling his dismissal of Naruto as a threat, the blonde shinobi moved. His speed caught Kakashi off guard. Not enough to truly threaten the experienced Jonin, but enough to make him raise an eyebrow. Naruto's taijutsu wasn't the sloppy academy style, but something more refined and unpredictable. "Interesting," Kakashi murmured, putting his book away. "Your file seems to be outdated." Naruto grinned. "Maybe you shouldn't believe everything you read, Sensei." The brief exchange that followed showed Kakashi that while Naruto might not be at Jonin level, he was far from the incompetent prankster his record suggested. After several minutes of testing his new student's capabilities, Kakashi disengaged to locate the others, leaving Naruto with a thoughtful glance. Eventually, after several failed individual attempts, Naruto managed to convince his teammates to work together. Their coordinated attacks still failed to secure the bells, but it demonstrated enough teamwork for Kakashi to pass them. Though the Jonin made a mental note to investigate the discrepancy between Naruto's records and his demonstrated abilities. "You moved differently," Sasuke commented afterward, his competitive nature clearly bothered by Naruto's unexpected competence. "I've been training on my own," Naruto replied with a shrug. "Just because the academy teachers didn't notice doesn't mean I wasn't improving." As Team 7 began their life of D-rank missions, catching cats, weeding gardens, and other mundane tasks, Naruto continued his secret training. Each night, guided by Kurama, he refined his control over both chakra and cursed energy, learning to switch seamlessly between them or blend them for enhanced effects. "The true power comes when you can use both simultaneously," Kurama explained. "Chakra provides precise control and specific techniques. Cursed energy offers raw power and effects that defy conventional shinobi understanding." Weeks of frustrating D-rank missions culminated in Naruto's carefully calculated outburst in the Hokage's office, demanding a more challenging assignment. Though it appeared to be his usual impulsiveness, it was actually a strategic move to push their team toward situations where he could legitimately display more of his abilities. The C-rank mission to escort the bridge builder Tazuna seemed straightforward until the encounter with the Demon Brothers, Chunin-level missing mean from the mist. While Sasuke smoothly handled one attacker, the other lunged for Naruto with poison claws. Time seemed to slow as Naruto's enhanced reflexes, bolstered by both chakra and subtle cursed energy, allowed him to track the attack perfectly. Rather than dodging clumsily or freezing in fear, He sidestepped with precision, catching the assailant's arm and using his own momentum to slam him into the ground with unexpected strength. Kakashi, who had been observing from hiding, noted with interest how Naruto's movement pattern changed subtly during combat, shifting from the somewhat predictable academy style to something more fluid and instinctive. Naruto, that was... Sakura began, surprised by her teammates' competence. Lucky, Naruto interrupted with his fox-like grin, maintaining his carefully constructed image while allowing glimpses of his true capabilities to show through. After the truth about the mission's real dangers emerged, the team continued toward the Land of Waves. Kurama used their travel time to counsel Naruto on the coming challenges. Zabuza Momochi is a Jonin-level threat, one of the 7 swordsmen of the Mist, the Fox warned. This will be your first true combat test against an elite opponent. You'll need to reveal more of your abilities without exposing everything. How much should I show? Naruto asked mentally as they walked. Enough to survive and protect your team. Focus on enhanced physical abilities and perhaps a controlled dismantle if absolutely necessary. Avoid reverse curse technique unless your life is in immediate danger. The encounter with Zabuza came suddenly, mist rolling in across the road, killing intent saturating the air. As the missing Nin appeared, his massive sword gleaming, Kakashi ordered his genin to protect Tizuna while he handled the threat. The battle that followed was intense, with Kakashi eventually trapped in Zabuza's water prison jutsu. As the water clone advanced on the genin team, Sasuke took the lead in defense, but soon found himself overwhelmed. We need to free Kakashi-sensei, Naruto stated, his mind racing through tactical options. I have an idea, but I need your help, Sasuke. The Uchiha glanced at him skeptically but nodded. What followed was a coordinated attack that shocked both Sasuke and Sakura. Naruto created shadow clones, not just a few, but dozens, while Sasuke prepared a fire technique. As the clones engaged the water clone, Naruto himself circled toward the real Zabuza, moving with speed that raised Kakashi's visible eyebrow. Now, Naruto called, and as Sasuke launched his fireball to distract the water clone, Naruto extended his hand toward Zabuza's water prison. Dismantle, he whispered, channeling cursed energy through his palm. An invisible cutting force sliced through the water prison, disrupting the jutsu without leaving any visible indication of what had severed it. Zabuza's eyes widened in shock as his perfect prison simply fell apart, releasing Kakashi. What the hell was that? The missing Nin growled, leaping back to create distance. Kakashi, free and alert, spared a glance at Naruto. I'd like to know the same thing, he murmured before re-engaging Zabuza. The battle concluded with Haku's false killing of Zabuza, but Kakashi's suspicions about Naruto had deepened significantly. During their recovery period at Tizuna's house, the Jonin approached his student privately. That technique you used against Zabuza's water prison, Kakashi began. I've never seen anything like it. No hand signs, no visible chakra. Naruto maintained his innocent expression. I just hit the water really hard, sensei. Got lucky, I guess. Kakashi's eye narrowed. Naruto, as your team leader, I need to know your capabilities to plan effectively. Whatever that was, it wasn't normal chakra manipulation. After a moment of internal consultation with Kurama, Naruto sighed. It's complicated, sensei. It's a kind of energy manipulation that's different from regular chakra. I've been training with it for years. Different how? Kakashi pressed. It's hard to explain, Naruto replied truthfully. It feels different, moves differently. Does things chakra can't do. Kakashi studied him intently. Is it related to your tenant? Sort of, but not directly, Naruto answered carefully. The Nine Tails says it's an old bloodline from my mother's clan, the Uzumaki. Something that was dormant for generations until that night. This partial truth satisfied Kakashi for the moment, though the Jonin made a mental note to research Uzumaki clan bloodlines upon their return to Konoha. The week of recovery brought another dimension to Naruto's training as he joined Sasuke in tree-walking exercises. While he pretended to struggle initially, he quickly matched and then surpassed the Uchiha's control, a fact that didn't go unnoticed. How are you improving so quickly? Sasuke demanded one evening, frustration evident in his voice. Naruto shrugged. I just keep trying until I get it. Isn't that what you do? The Uchiha's eyes narrowed. You're hiding something. You have been since the academy. What is it? For a moment, Naruto considered revealing more of the truth, but Kurama counseled caution. The Uchiha aren't known for their ability to keep secrets from those in power, the fox warned. Tell him enough to satisfy his curiosity without revealing your true potential. I have good instincts, Naruto finally replied, and I train harder than anyone knows. That's all. The final confrontation on the bridge came days later. As Sasuke faced Haku within the Ice Mirror Jutsu, Naruto found himself torn between rushing to help and maintaining his cover. When he felt Sasuke's chakra signature weaken dangerously, the decision was made for him. Bursting into the Ice Mirror Dome, Naruto found Sasuke collapsed, seemingly dead, riddled with Senbon. Rage and grief surged through him, and with it, his control over his cursed energy slipped. "What have you done?" he growled, a purplish-black aura beginning to shimmer around him, distinct from the red chakra of the Nine Tails. Haku, still masked, hesitated at the sight of this unusual energy. "I'm sorry." He fought bravely to protect you. A true shinobi. What followed was Naruto's first true combat revelation. Moving with speed that left afterimages, he shattered Haku's mirrors with bare hands enhanced by cursed energy. When the masked Nin attempted to counterattack, Naruto's palm thrust forward. "Cleave," he intoned, and though no visible attack launched, Haku's mask split perfectly down the middle, falling away to reveal the face of the kind person Naruto had met in the forest days earlier. The recognition caused Naruto to pull back his finishing blow. "You from the forest?" As their confrontation led to Haku's sacrifice to protect Zabuza and the missing Nin's subsequent redemption against Gato, Naruto revealed another aspect of his unique abilities. Seeing Zabuza mortally wounded after slaying Gato, Naruto approached the dying swordsman. "Let me try something," he said, placing his hands over Zabuza's worst wounds. Channeling cursed energy in the reverse flow that Kurama had taught him, he attempted a rudimentary reverse curse technique, the healing application of cursed energy. The wounds began to close partially, not enough to save Zabuza's life, but enough to ease his passing and give him precious additional moments with Haku's body. "What are you?" Zabuza whispered, feeling the strange energy flowing into him. "Just a shinobi of the hidden leaf," Naruto replied softly. As Team 7 returned to Konoha, Kakashi's report to the third Hokage was carefully worded but clear. Naruto Uzumaki possessed abilities beyond normal chakra manipulation, possibly a bloodline limit activated by the Nine-Tail Ceiling. The Hokage listened thoughtfully, connecting this information with the anomalous readings detected the night of the ceiling 12 years prior. "Monitor him closely," Hiruzen instructed, "but allow him room to develop these abilities. If it is indeed an Uzumaki bloodline, it belongs to him by right." The Chunin exams were announced shortly after their return, presenting Naruto with both opportunity and challenge. Kurama saw it as the perfect venue to reveal more of his abilities in a controlled, sanctioned environment. "The exams will pit you against peers from multiple villages," the fox noted. "It's an ideal setting to demonstrate your prowess without revealing everything. Strategic disclosure will build your reputation while keeping your ultimate capabilities hidden." As Team 7 entered the examination building, Naruto's enhanced senses immediately detected the Genjutsu on the wrong floor. Rather than pointing it out loudly as he might have once done, he subtly guided his team past the distraction, catching Sasuke's approving glance. The written exam presented little challenge thanks to Kurama's guidance in using subtle sensory techniques to gather answers. The Forest of Death, however, will be their first true test as a team against deadly opposition. Within the first hour of entering the forest, Team 7 had already collected an additional scroll from a team of rain ninjas. Naruto's tactical suggestions and enhanced sensory abilities. He could detect both chakra signatures and the distinct feel of cursed energy lingering in locations recently visited by powerful beings, provided their team with a significant advantage. "Something powerful is approaching," Naruto warned suddenly as they made camp on the first night. "Something that feels wrong." Moments later, they encountered the disguised Orochimaru. The battle that followed pushed Naruto to reveal more of his abilities than he had intended. As the Sanin's killing intent paralyzed Sasuke and Sakura, Naruto found himself resistant thanks to Kurama's protection and his cursed energy naturally countering the chakra-based paralysis. "Interesting," Orochimaru hissed, his serpentine eyes fixing on Naruto. "You're not affected by my killing intent. How curious. The fight quickly escalated beyond genin level, with Orochimaru toying with them despite Naruto's increasingly desperate attempts to protect his teammates. When the Sannin summoned his massive snake, Naruto finally tapped more deeply into his cursed energy. "Dismantle," he called out, slashing his arm through the air. An invisible cutting force sliced through the snake's scales, drawing blood and causing the creature to recoil. Orochimaru's eyes widened with genuine surprise. "That wasn't chakra," he observed, suddenly much more interested in Naruto than Sasuke. "What are you using, boy? It feels ancient." "None of your business, snake face," Naruto retorted, creating shadow clones enhanced with cursed energy, making them far more durable than standard chakra clones. The Sannin's tongue elongated, wrapping around Naruto and pulling him close for examination. "How fascinating. I sense the nine tails, of course, but there's something else, something I haven't felt in all my research." His free hand formed a seal, pressing against Naruto's stomach to disrupt the fox's chakra flow, but he was unprepared for the cursed energy backlash that erupted from the contact. Orochimaru hissed in pain as purplish-black energy scorched his hand. "Cursed energy?" he whispered, his scientific curiosity overriding his immediate goals. But that would mean he didn't finish the thought as Naruto, momentarily freed, launched a desperate attack. Though it failed to do significant damage, it distracted Orochimaru long enough for Sasuke to recover and join the fight. The battle concluded with Orochimaru placing the cursed seal on Sasuke, but not before giving Naruto a final, evaluative look. "We will meet again, Uzumaki. Your abilities interest me far more than I expected." As they recovered and continued through the forest, Sasuke confronted Naruto during Sakura's watch. "What was that energy you were using?" The snake freak seemed surprised by it. Naruto sighed, deciding that after such a revealing battle, partial honesty was necessary. "It's called cursed energy. It's something from my mother's clan, apparently. The Nine Tails has been teaching me to use it." Sasuke's eyes widened slightly. "The demon fox is teaching you?" "He's not what everyone thinks," Naruto replied carefully. "He has knowledge going back centuries. He recognized this ability in me and decided to help me master it." This revelation created a complex mix of emotions in Sasuke. Respect for Naruto's growing power, competitive drive to match it, and confusion about everything he thought he knew about the dead last and the Nine Tails itself. The preliminary matches began after they reached the tower, with Naruto drawing a match against Kiba Inuzuka. The Dognin approached the fight with confidence, still viewing Naruto as the academy failure. "You should just forfeit," Kiba taunted. "Everyone knows you only got this far because of your teammates." Naruto merely smiled. "Why don't we let our skills decide that?" The match began with Kiba's signature Fong over Fong technique, a spinning assault that had overwhelmed many opponents. Naruto, however, simply stood his ground, tracking the high-speed attack with enhanced perception. At the last possible moment, he sidestepped with inhuman precision, allowing Kiba to crash into the floor. "What the?" Kiba barely had time to register surprise before Naruto was on him, moving with fluid grace that shocked the observers. "When did Naruto learn to move like that?" Ino asked from the balcony. "He's been holding back," Shikamaru observed thoughtfully. Troublesome, as Kiba escalated with soldier pills and combination attacks with Akamaru, Naruto continued to outmaneuver them, never using the same evasion pattern twice. Finally, when both Kiba and his Ninkin partner launched a desperate duel Fong over Fong, Naruto decided to end the match decisively. Extending both hands, he channeled cursed energy visibly for the first time in public, purplish-black energy spiraling around his arms. "Dismantle," he stated calmly. The invisible cutting force didn't target Kiba or Akamaru directly. Naruto was careful not to seriously injure his fellow Leaf Ninja, but instead sliced through the floor in their path, disrupting their rotation and sending them tumbling painfully to the ground. Before they could recover, Naruto was standing over them, hand extended with another technique ready. "I suggest you forfeit," he said quietly. "I don't want to hurt you any more than necessary." Kiba, recognizing the genuine threat, grudgingly surrendered. The spectators' reactions were varied and intense. The Leaf Jonin exchanged concerned glances, recognizing that what they'd just witnessed wasn't normal chakra manipulation. The third Hokage stroked his beard thoughtfully. And in the shadows, disguised as a sound jonin, Orochimaru's interest deepened considerably. Cursed energy, the Sannin murmured to himself. I thought that was merely a theoretical concept from ancient texts. To see it manifested so clearly, and in a Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, no less. How delightfully unexpected. The month-long training period before the final round gave Naruto time to refine his techniques under Jiraiya's guidance. The Toad Sage, initially assigned to help Naruto control the Nine-Tails chakra, was shocked to discover the unusual partnership already established between Jinchuriki and Tailed Beast. "You're on speaking terms with the fox?" Jiraiya asked incredulously after Naruto casually mentioned Kurama's advice. "Have been for years," Naruto replied. "He's been teaching me about my bloodline." This revelation led to a deep discussion about the nature of cursed energy and its relationship to chakra. Jiraiya, for all his knowledge of sealing and Toad Sage techniques, found himself learning from his young student about a power system he'd only encountered in ancient scrolls. The fourth seal must have done more than just contain the Nine Tails, Jiraiya mused. It somehow activated this dormant bloodline. Kurama says it was the trauma of the sealing, Naruto explained. The shock of having his chakra forced into my system triggered something that had been sleeping in the Uzumaki bloodline for centuries. Kurama, Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. "You're on a first-name basis with the Nine-Tails?" Naruto shrugged. "That's his name. He doesn't like being called Nine-Tails or Fox all the time. Would you?" This perspective shift caused Jiraiya to reevaluate much of what he thought he knew about the tailed beasts. During their training, he focused on helping Naruto refine his chakra control for summoning techniques, while providing space for the boy to continue his cursed energy development under Kurama's guidance. By the day of the finals, Naruto had significantly improved his control over both energy systems and had begun developing techniques that combine them in unique ways, like infusing his shadow clones with cursed energy to make them exponentially more durable and powerful. His final match against Neji Hyuga became one of the most discussed events of the exam. The Hyuga prodigy entered the arena confident in his superiority, his fatalistic philosophy primed and ready. "You should withdraw," Neji advised coldly. "Fate has already determined this match. The dead last cannot defeat a genius." Naruto's response was measured. Not the boisterous denial of his younger self, but the calm confidence of someone who understood his own power. "Fate isn't as rigid as you think, Neji. Let me show you why." The battle began with Neji's typical precision strikes, attempting to close Naruto's chakra points with the gentle fist. What he didn't expect was Naruto's ability to channel cursed energy through those same points, keeping them open despite direct hits. "Impossible," Neji gasped as his supposedly definitive strikes failed to disable his opponent. "I've closed your Tenketsu. Chakra points and cursed energy pathways aren't quite the same," Naruto explained, launching a counterattack that forced Neji to activate his rotation technique. "Your eyes can see chakra networks, but can they see this?" Naruto extended his hand, channeling pure cursed energy that manifested as purplish-black flames around his arm. The energy wasn't visible to normal sight, but the Byakugan could detect its disturbing presence, similar to chakra, yet fundamentally different in how it moved and behaved. "What is this?" Neji demanded, his composure cracking. "This isn't normal chakra." "No, it's not," Naruto agreed. "It's something older. Something your fate-based worldview doesn't account for." Their battle escalated as Neji unleashed his full arsenal of gentle fist techniques, while Naruto countered with increasingly sophisticated combinations of shadow clones, chakra techniques, and cursed energy manipulations. The crowd watched in awe as the supposed dead last matched the Hyuga prodigy technique for technique. The climax came when Neji, desperate to end the match, unleashed his ultimate defense. The 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven, creating a dome of pure chakra that had never been penetrated. Naruto, seeing his opportunity, channeled cursed energy into his palm, forming a modified Rinnegan that swirled with both blue chakra and purplish-black cursed energy. "This is what happens when you combine 2 energy systems," he called out. Cursed Rinnegan. The hybrid technique struck Neji's absolute defense, and for a moment they seemed evenly matched, until the cursed energy component began literally eating through the chakra dome, disrupting its perfect rotation and creating an opening. As the defense failed, Naruto's attack sent Neji crashing to the ground. Standing over his defeated opponent, Naruto offered not mockery, but understanding. Fate didn't decide this match, Niji. Our choices did. Your choice to believe in limitations, and my choice to reject them. He extended a hand to help the Hyuga up. We write our own destinies. In the stands, the reactions were profound. The third Hokage sat forward, recognition dawning in his aged eyes. The disguised Orochimaru's interest sharpened to laser focus. And among the Jonin, serious conversations began about what they were witnessing. That wasn't any Kekkei Genkai I've ever seen, Asuma murmured to Kurenai. The energy signature is completely foreign, she agreed. Not chakra, not a nature transformation. Kakashi, his Sharingan uncovered, studied the residual energy patterns with intense focus. It's as if he's tapping into something fundamental, something that existed before the chakra system as we understand it. The tournament continued with subsequent matches, but the unexpected invasion by sand and sound forces interrupted before Naruto could face Gaara, the match many had been anticipating most. As chaos erupted in the arena, Naruto found himself tasked with pursuing the Sand siblings who had fled with an increasingly unstable Gaara. This is your chance to test yourself against another Jinchuriki, Kurama noted as Naruto leapt through the forest in pursuit. Shikaku is unstable and wild, but powerful in his own right. Will my cursed energy work against his sand? Naruto asked mentally. Even better than normal chakra, Kurama confirmed. Sand is physical matter. Dismantle will cut through it effortlessly. And if you can reach him directly, your techniques might be able to disrupt the faulty seal that makes Shikaku so dominant in their partnership. Catching up to the Sand siblings, Naruto first had to contend with Kankuro and Temari, who sought to delay him while Gaara recovered. These encounters were brief, but demonstrated Naruto's growing tactical prowess, using shadow clones as diversions while he maneuvered for precision strikes with Dismantle to neutralize Kankuro's puppets and create openings past Temari's wind techniques. When he finally confronted Gaara, the Sand Jinchuriki was already halfway transformed, his human features distorted by Shikaku's influence. The killing intent radiating from him was palpable, but Naruto stood firm, protected by his dual nature. Mother wants your blood, Gaara growled, his voice distorted. She says you smell different, special. That's not your mother talking, Naruto replied calmly. That's Shikaku, the One Tail. And he's lying to you, Gaara. The battle that followed was cataclysmic. Gaara's sand transformations growing more extensive, while Naruto countered with increasingly powerful applications of both chakra and cursed energy. When massive sand arms threatened to crush him, Naruto's Dismantle sliced through them like they were paper. When Gaara created a desert coffin around him, cursed energy erupted outward, shattering the compression technique before it could crush him. Why won't you die? Gaara screamed in frustration as each supposedly fatal technique failed. Because I have something worth living for, Naruto answered, channeling cursed energy into his next attack. And I think you do too, if you'd only look for it. As Gaara completed his transformation into the full Shikaku form, Naruto recognized the need for his most powerful technique yet. Drawing on Kurama's chakra to summon Gamabunta, he simultaneously prepared to attempt his first domain expansion, the ultimate curse technique that Sukuna had mastered and Kurama had described in their training. Are you sure about this? Kurama cautioned. A domain expansion requires perfect control of cursed energy throughout a defined space. You've never successfully maintained it in practice. No better time to try than when we really need it, Naruto replied with characteristic determination. Atop Gamabunta's head, facing the fully manifested Shikaku, Naruto formed a unique hand seal, not the traditional ninja signs, but an ancient mudra that Kurama had taught him, originating from Sukuna's era. Domain expansion, he intoned, channeling cursed energy outward in a sphere around himself and the two massive creatures. Malevolent Shrine. For a moment, reality itself seemed to waver as purplish-black energy created a dome around the battlefield. Within this space, spectral patterns resembling ancient script floated in the air, the written formulas of cursed techniques made manifest. Though incomplete and unstable, the domain successfully manifested for several seconds, during which Naruto's techniques gained overwhelming potency. Now, he commanded, and Gamabunta launched him toward the Sand Tanuki's forehead where Gaara protruded. With a precisely aimed dismantle enhanced by the domain's power, Naruto cut through Shikaku's defenses and reached the sleeping form of Gaara. The strike to Gaara's forehead disrupted the technique, keeping Shikaku manifested, while simultaneously delivering a small amount of cursed energy that temporarily stabilized the faulty seal. As both massive creatures dissipated, Naruto and Gaara fell to the forest floor, exhausted but conscious. Crawling toward the terrified Gaara, Naruto spoke from his heart about loneliness, pain, and finding purpose through precious people. This connection, Jinchuriki to Jinchuriki, one lonely child to another, reached Gaara in ways that combat never could, beginning the Sand Ninja's long journey toward redemption. "You're like me," Gaara whispered, seeing Naruto in a new light. "But you found another way, and you can too," Naruto assured him. "It starts with seeing the people around you, really seeing them." As they were collected by their respective allies, Sasuke and Sakura arriving for Naruto, Temari and Kankuro for Gaara, the Sand Jinchuriki left with a newfound perspective that would eventually transform both his life and his village. The aftermath of the invasion brought grief to Konoha with the third Hokage's death, but also new understanding of Naruto's unique abilities. Reports from those who had witnessed his battles against Neji, against Gaara, and during the invasion defense painted a picture of abilities far beyond what anyone had expected from the former Deadlast. The search for Tsunade began shortly thereafter, with Jiraiya selecting Naruto to accompany him. This journey served multiple purposes, finding the next Hokage, continuing Naruto's training, and keeping him away from Konoha while interest in his abilities was at its peak. "Your performance in the exams has attracted attention," Jiraiya explained as they traveled. "Not all of it welcome. Orochimaru seemed particularly interested in your cursed energy techniques. Kurama says he would be," Naruto replied. Apparently, cursed energy was mostly forgotten after the Sage of Six Paths established the modern chakra system. Only a few bloodlines retained any connection to it. Their search led them through several towns, with Jiraiya using the journey as an extended training opportunity. The Toad Sage focused particularly on helping Naruto refine his Rinnegan, both the traditional version and his hybrid cursed energy variant. "The fourth would be impressed," Jiraiya commented after watching Naruto form a perfect Rinnegan in one hand. "It took him 3 years to develop that technique, and you've nearly mastered it in weeks." "Having two energy systems helps," Naruto admitted. "Chakra provides the structure, while cursed energy adds power and stability." Their encounter with Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki came unexpectedly at a roadside inn. The Akatsuki members had come seeking the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, but found themselves facing an unexpectedly prepared opponent. "The Nine-Tails brat doesn't seem scared," Kisame noted, his shark-like grin widening at the prospect of a challenge. "He's different from the reports," Itachi observed, his Sharingan studying Naruto carefully. "There's another energy signature mixing with the Nine-Tails chakra, something I've never seen before." When they attacked, Naruto demonstrated significant growth, creating shadow clones enhanced with cursed energy that proved surprisingly resilient even against Kisame's chakra-draining sword, Samahata. More shocking to the Akatsuki members was when Naruto used Dismantle against Samahata, actually cutting into the legendary blade, something that should have been impossible. "What the hell?" Kisame growled, pulling back his damaged weapon. Samahata doesn't get cut. Jiraiya's timely intervention prevented the battle from escalating further, but the encounter left a significant impression on both Akatsuki members, particularly Itachi, whose analytical mind recognized the implications of what he'd witnessed. "The Jinchuriki possesses some kind of cutting technique that doesn't use chakra," he reported later to their leader. "Samahata couldn't absorb it, and my Sharingan couldn't copy it. It appears to be a completely different energy system." This information would eventually reshape Akatsuki's approach to capturing the Nine-Tails, adding urgency to their timeline as Naruto's mysterious abilities continued to develop. Finding Tsunade proved challenging, but eventually Naruto and Jiraiya located her in a gambling town. Their initial meeting went poorly, with the legendary medic dismissing Naruto as just another brat with big dreams. The situation changed dramatically when Orochimaru appeared, offering to heal Tsunade's assistant in exchange for healing his arms. During the confrontation that followed, Naruto once again found himself demonstrating his unique abilities, this time before one of the world's greatest medical experts. What caught Tsunade's attention wasn't just Naruto's combat prowess, but his use of reverse curse technique to heal a minor injury sustained during the skirmish. As a medical specialist, she immediately recognized that what she was witnessing wasn't normal medical ninjutsu. That healing technique, she commented afterward. It's not chakra-based, is it? It's called reverse curse technique, Naruto explained. It uses cursed energy flowing in the opposite direction to its normal flow, regenerating cells and tissues instead of destroying them. This revelation fascinated the medical Sannin, whose entire career had been built on pushing the boundaries of healing techniques. In all my research, I've never encountered an energy system that could regenerate tissue without cellular sacrifice or significant chakra expenditure. Their discussions about healing techniques created an unexpected bond, with Tsunade recognizing in Naruto not just Nawaki and Dan's dream of becoming Hokage, but a genuine medical innovator who might someday revolutionize healing arts. The final confrontation with Orochimaru and Kabuto demonstrated this potential dramatically. When Kabuto severed his own wrist tendons to escape a hold, then immediately healed them with medical ninjutsu, Naruto countered with his own reverse curse technique, healing a potentially fatal wound Kabuto had inflicted on him seconds later. "Impossible," Kabuto muttered, his medical expertise telling him that the injury he'd inflicted should have been debilitating at minimum. No one heals that quickly. The battle culminated in Naruto's first combat use of his hybrid cursed Rinnegan against Kabuto, the technique's dual-energy nature overwhelming the medic's defensive regeneration and sending him crashing into a boulder. The visible effect of cursed energy eating through chakra defenses caught Tsunade's professional interest immediately. "The applications for breaking through medical barriers could be revolutionary," she commented later, examining the technique's effects. Chakra resistance, cellular stagnation, even the strength of 100 seals limitations. Cursed energy might bypass them all. Tsunade's decision to return to Konoha was influenced not just by Naruto's determination and resemblance to her loved ones, but by genuine scientific curiosity about this rediscovered energy system and its healing applications. Before leaving, she gave him her necklace, not just as a bet, but as recognition of a worthy successor in both leadership and medical innovation. Upon returning to Konoha, Naruto found the dynamics of his peer relationships significantly changed. His performance in the Chunin exams and during the invasion had transformed how others viewed him, from the Academy's dead last to a formidable shinobi with unique and powerful abilities. Training sessions with his fellow genin took on new intensity, with others eager to test themselves against his unusual techniques. Shikamaru, recently promoted to Chunin, took particular interest in understanding the tactical applications of cursed energy. "It's troublesome, but fascinating," the Naruto commented during one strategy session. "Your techniques don't follow the normal elemental weaknesses and strengths. They operate on different principles entirely." This period of relative peace ended abruptly when Sasuke, driven by jealousy of Naruto's rapid advancement and frustration at his own perceived stagnation, decided to leave the village to seek power from Orochimaru. The cursed seal placed on him during the Chunin exams had been feeding this discontent, whispering promises of power that could surpass even Naruto's mysterious abilities. The mission to retrieve Sasuke became Naruto's most significant challenge yet. As team leader, Shikamaru assembled an elite team of genin: Naruto, Neji, Choji, and Kiba. Their pursuit of the Sound Four, Orochimaru's elite guards who were escorting Sasuke, demanded not just power but strategic deployment of their various abilities. One by one, the team members stayed behind to handle individual members of the Sound Four, allowing Naruto to continue the pursuit. Each battle tested a different aspect of Naruto's growing tactical mind, as he helped position each teammate for optimal matchups before continuing forward. When Naruto finally caught up to Sasuke at the Valley of the End, he found his teammate already halfway, transformed by the cursed seal, black markings covering his skin, and his Sharingan blazing with hatred and envy. "You've been hiding your true abilities all along," Sasuke accused, his voice distorted by the seal's influence. making fools of us all while you secretly mastered techniques no one has ever seen. I didn't show everything because I was learning control, Naruto replied calmly. Just like you should be doing with that seal, instead of letting it control you. Their battle began with Taijutsu, Sasuke's Sharingan enhanced precision against Naruto's cursed energy-boosted speed and strength. They seemed evenly matched until Sasuke activated the first stage of his cursed seal, gaining a significant power boost. This is what real power feels like. Sasuke taunted as his enhanced strength cracked the stone beneath them. Not some hidden bloodline you did nothing to earn. Naruto responded by channeling cursed energy visibly around his body, the purplish-black aura creating a striking contrast to the dark flame-like patterns of Sasuke's cursed seal. You're right about one thing. Power itself isn't earned, but how we use it, how we control it, that's what matters. As the battle escalated, Sasuke progressed to the second stage of the cursed seal, his body transforming into a grotesque, wing-like form that boosted his abilities even further. Naruto countered by drawing on more of Kurama's chakra, creating a red shroud that complemented his purple cursed energy. Two energy systems, Sasuke observed with his Sharingan. No wonder you've advanced so quickly. But my Sharingan can see through all techniques. Can it see through this? Naruto challenged, extending his hand. Dismantle. The invisible cutting force slashed through one of Sasuke's wing-like appendages, drawing first blood in their serious exchange. The Uchiha's eyes widened in shock. His Sharingan had detected energy movement, but couldn't predict or copy the technique itself. What is that? He demanded, genuine fear mixing with his anger for the first time. Cursed energy, Naruto explained, maintaining combat distance. From my mother's bloodline. The Sharingan evolved to see and copy chakra techniques, but cursed energy predates the modern chakra system by centuries. This revelation only fueled Sasuke's determination. If he couldn't copy these techniques, he would overwhelm them with raw power. Drawing on the full potential of the cursed seal, he prepared his ultimate technique, a Chidori enhanced by the seal's corrupt energy. Let's end this, he snarled, the chirping lightning in his hand darkened by malevolent power. Naruto nodded, forming his own ultimate technique, a Rinnegan that swirled with both Kurama's red chakra and his purple cursed energy. One last exchange. As they leapt toward each other, Naruto made a split-second decision. Rather than meeting the Chidori directly, he channeled cursed energy into a specific pattern. One Kurama had been teaching him for months, but that he had never successfully completed. Domain expansion, he called out, his voice resonating with power beyond his years. Malevolent shrine. The world around them shifted as reality itself seemed to warp. A dome of purplish-black energy expanded from Naruto, encompassing the entire valley. Within this domain, spectral patterns resembling ancient script floated in the air, and the very laws of physics bent to the domain creator's will. Sasuke's Chidori suddenly found itself moving through space that responded differently, where cursed energy was the dominant force and chakra techniques became less effective. His attacks still connected with Naruto's chest, but with significantly reduced power, while Naruto's cursed Rinnegan struck with enhanced force, shattering through Sasuke's defenses. The impact sent the Uchiha crashing into the valley wall, his cursed seal receding as consciousness faded. Naruto, wounded but victorious, stood over his defeated teammate as the domain slowly dissipated around them. I won't force you to come back, Naruto said softly, blood seeping from where the weakened Chidori had pierced a shoulder. That's not my way. But know this, there are paths to power that don't require sacrificing everything that matters. Using his reverse curse technique to stabilize both their injuries, Naruto made the difficult decision to let Sasuke go, recognizing that forcing him to return would only breed more resentment and hatred. It was a choice that demonstrated his growth from impulsive child to thoughtful young man who understood that true strength sometimes meant making painful choices. You're letting him go? Kurama questioned as they watched Sasuke's unconscious form being retrieved by Orochimaru's agents in the distance. He needs to find his own path, Naruto replied mentally. Just like I did. Just like you did all those centuries ago with Sukuna. The fox was silent for a long moment before responding. You've grown wiser than I expected, kid. Sukuna would have approved, though he might have cut off an arm first. as a reminder. As Kakashi arrived at the valley to find Naruto alone, the young shinobi looked toward the horizon where his friend had disappeared. "He'll be back someday," Naruto stated with quiet confidence. "And when he returns, I'll be ready." The journey back to Konoha was somber, with Naruto reflecting on everything that had transpired since that fateful night when the Nine Tails was sealed within him, awakening his dormant bloodline. From academy failure to recognized prodigy, from village pariah to respected defender, his path had been anything but ordinary. In the Hokage's office, delivering his mission report to Tsunade, Naruto spoke with a maturity that belied his years. "I'll let him go," he admitted without apology. Forcing him back wouldn't have solved anything. Tsunade studied him thoughtfully. Most would consider the mission a failure. The mission was to retrieve Sasuke, Naruto acknowledged. But the purpose was to save him from Orochimaru's influence. "I believe he needs to discover for himself what true power is and what it costs." As he left the office, Naruto gazed at the Hokage monument, his determination undiminished. "This isn't over," he promised himself. "Orochimaru, Akatsuki, Sasuke, there are bigger battles coming." In his mindscape, Kurama rumbled in agreement. "And we'll face them together, partner. Just as Sukuna and I once did." Unknown to Naruto, across the shinobi world, ripples from his awakened bloodline were already spreading. In Akatsuki's shadowy hideout, discussions about accelerating their plans for the Nine Tails were growing urgent. "The Jinchuriki possesses abilities we didn't account for," Pain stated to the assembled members. "Abilities that could threaten our entire operation if allowed to develop further." Meanwhile, in Orochimaru's hidden laboratory, the Snake Sannin pored over ancient texts, seeking information about cursed energy and its relationship to the modern chakra system. "Fascinating," he murmured, eyes gleaming with scientific curiosity. The boy could be the key to power even greater than the Sharingan. And somewhere in the ancient ruins that predated the hidden villages, dust stirred on a stone tablet bearing inscriptions no modern shinobi could read. Inscriptions describing a pact between a nine-tailed fox and a sorcerer with two faces, whose power would one day return to reshape the world. As Naruto stood on the hospital rooftop, fully recovered thanks to his reverse curse technique, he looked toward the horizon with newfound purpose. The sun was setting on his childhood, on simple dreams of acknowledgement and belonging. Ahead lay greater challenges, mastering the full potential of his dual nature, confronting organizations that threatened world peace, and eventually bringing his friend back from darkness. "We have work to do," he said to Kurama, feeling the fox's agreement rumble through their shared consciousness. "Training, new techniques, perfect domain control." "Indeed," the ancient being replied. "The true battle is just beginning." With that understanding, Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, heir to the cursed bloodline of Ryomen Sukuna, and future Hokage of the Hidden Leaf, turned toward his destiny, ready to face whatever challenges awaited on the path ahead. The morning sun cast long shadows across the training ground as Naruto stood motionless, purple-black energy swirling around his outstretched hand. 3 years had passed since the Valley of the End, where he had made the painful decision to let Sasuke go. 3 years of rigorous training with Jiraiya, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with his dual chakra and cursed energy systems. 3 years of deepening his connection with the ancient being sealed within him. "Focus," Kurama's voice resonated within his mindscape. "The domain isn't just about raw power. It's about imposing your will on reality itself." Naruto closed his eyes, centering himself. The purplish-black energy expanded outward, creating a dome that encompassed the clearing. Within this space, reality bent to his will. Gravity shifted, air pressure changed, and the very laws of physics became malleable. "Domain expansion, malevolent shrine," he intoned, his voice carrying power beyond his years. The technique held for 30 seconds before collapsing, leaving Naruto breathing heavily but satisfied. 3 years ago, he could barely maintain it for 5 seconds during his fight with Sasuke. "Better," Jiraiya commented from the sidelines, his expression a mixture of pride and disbelief. In all his decades as a shinobi, he had never witnessed anything like Naruto's abilities. "But you're still leaking energy at the boundaries. A perfect domain should be sealed tight. No energy escapes, and nothing gets in without your permission." "I know," Naruto replied, wiping sweat from his brow. At 16, he had grown taller, his features sharper. The whisker marks on his cheeks seemed more pronounced, and his eyes occasionally flashed with an ancient intelligence that didn't belong to him. Kurama says Sukuna could maintain his domain for hours without strain. Sukuna had centuries to perfect his technique, Kurama reminded him. You've had 3 years. The progress is acceptable. Naruto smirked internally at the fox's reluctant praise. Their relationship had evolved significantly during their time with Jiraiya. What began as a strategic alliance had gradually deepened into something more complex. A partnership built on mutual respect and growing understanding. We should rest, Jiraiya suggested, rolling up a scroll he'd been studying. We head back to Konoha tomorrow. I've received word that Akatsuki is on the move again. They've targeted the Kazekage. Naruto's expression darkened. Gaara, that night, as Jiraiya slept, Naruto sat in meditation pose, delving into his mindscape. The space had changed over the years. No longer a dank sewer, but a vast forest clearing where the great fox lounged beneath ancient trees. The bars of the cage remained as a formality, a reminder of the seal that bound them together. Something's bothering you, Kurama observed, his massive tail swaying gently. Naruto nodded. I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about Sukuna having centuries to perfect his techniques. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to catch up to a legend I can never match. The fox regarded him thoughtfully. Sukuna wasn't born a king. He became one through blood, sacrifice, and ruthless determination. His power grew with each battle, each technique mastered, each enemy devoured. That's not exactly comforting, Naruto replied dryly. It wasn't meant to be. Kurama shifted, bringing his massive face closer to the bars. But consider this. What took Sukuna centuries, you're accomplishing in years. Your progress with cursed energy isn't just impressive, it's unprecedented. Because I have you guiding me. Partially, the fox acknowledged. But there's something else, something I've noticed during our training. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What? Your cursed energy, it resonates differently than Sukuna's did. There's a familiar signature within it, something I haven't felt since. Kurama paused, seeming almost reluctant to continue. Since when? Since the Sage of Six Paths, Kurama finally answered. The old man possessed a cosmic energy signature that differed from normal chakra, something he inherited from his Otsutsuki lineage. Your cursed energy carries echoes of that same signature. Naruto's eyes widened. Are you saying I'm related to the sage? All shinobi technically descend from him, Kurama replied. But this is different. The Sukuna bloodline must have somehow preserved an energy pattern similar to the sage's original power, before chakra was distributed to humanity. It's ancient, primal, and potentially limitless. This revelation hung between them, its implications profound. If Naruto's cursed energy truly resonated with the sage's original power, it might explain why he could combine techniques that should have been incompatible. This is why our energies synchronize so well. Kurama continued, his voice thoughtful. Why you can channel my chakra while simultaneously using cursed techniques. Two entirely different energy systems that shouldn't coexist, yet in you, they harmonize. A tri-spirit fusion, Naruto murmured, remembering Jiraiya's term for his unique ability to blend his own chakra, Kurama's power, and Sukuna's cursed energy into something entirely new. Indeed, the fox studied him with ancient eyes. I've existed for centuries, partnered with 2 Jinchuriki before you. Neither Mito nor Kushina could have achieved what you're doing. There's something special about you, Naruto Uzumaki. The unexpected praise brought a smile to Naruto's face. Getting sentimental in your old age, Kurama? The fox snorted, though there was no real annoyance behind it. Pragmatic. Your potential serves my interests. The stronger you become, the better our chances against Akatsuki. But something had changed in their dynamic. A warmth that hadn't been there before. A genuine concern that went beyond strategic advantage. Neither acknowledged it directly, but both felt it. The first tentative threads of what might someday become friendship. Dawn broke over the forest as Naruto and Jiraiya began their journey back to Konoha. The younger shinobi was uncharacteristically quiet, still processing Kurama's revelation from the previous night. Something on your mind, kid? Jiraiya asked as they leapt through the trees. Just thinking about everything that's waiting for us back home. Naruto half-lied. Akatsuki, Gaara, Sasuke, it's a lot. Jiraiya studied his student with shrewd eyes. The transformation over the past 3 years had been remarkable. Gone was the impulsive, loudmouthed child who announced his presence at every opportunity. In his place stood a thoughtful young man who moved with calculated precision and spoke with measured words. He still carried Naruto's core essence, his determination, his compassion, his unwavering loyalty, but tempered now with something ancient and formidable. "You've grown," Jiraiya said simply. Naruto glanced at him, a small smile playing at his lips. "Had good teachers," the Toad Sage laughed. "Indeed you did. The greatest sage in the 5 nations and the most powerful tailed beast. Not a bad combination." "And Sukuna's techniques," Naruto added. "Without his bloodline, I'd just be." "You'd still be Naruto Uzumaki," Jiraiya interrupted firmly. "Never forget that. The bloodline, the fox, they're parts of you, tools at your disposal. But your heart, your will, your choices, those are yours alone." The words resonated deeply, addressing a concern Naruto hadn't fully articulated even to himself. The fear of losing his identity amidst the ancient powers flowing through him. "Thanks, Pervy Sage," he said quietly. They reached Konoha's gates by midday, greeted by surprised guards who barely recognized the mature shinobi returning with the legendary Sannin. Word of their arrival spread quickly, and by the time they reached the Hokage Tower, Tsunade was waiting impatiently. "About time you brought him back," she said to Jiraiya, though her eyes remained fixed on Naruto, assessing the changes 3 years had wrought. "You've gotten taller," Naruto grinned. "And stronger. Want a demonstration?" "Later," Tsunade replied, her expression turning serious. "We have an emergency. The Kazekage has been abducted by Akatsuki, 2 members identified as Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara, a bombing specialist from Iwagakure." The playfulness vanished from Naruto's face when, 3 days ago, Team Kakashi is being assembled as we speak for an emergency response mission. You'll join them. No debate, no questions, just a nod of acceptance. Another change from the Naruto of old. "What do we know about their abilities?" he asked. As Tsunade briefed them on the situation, Kurama stirred within Naruto's consciousness. "This is it, our first true test against Akatsuki. Are you ready?" "We are," Naruto replied mentally, the plural significant. Team Kakashi assembled at the gates within the hour. Kakashi himself, looking no different than he had 3 years prior. Sakura, now a confident medical ninja trained by Tsunade, and Naruto, whose transformation drew the most reaction. Naruto. Sakura's eyes widened as she took in his appearance. Gone was the orange jumpsuit, replaced by a black and dark orange outfit with multiple utility pouches and arm guards inscribed with sealing formulas. His Hitaite was tied around his arm rather than his forehead, and a short blade hung at his lower back. "You look different, so do you," he replied with a genuine smile. 3 years had given him perspective. The childhood crush had faded, replaced by deep respect for her growth as a kunoichi. "Tsunade-sama said you've become an exceptional medical ninja." Sakura blushed slightly at the praise. "I've worked hard, but from what Tsunade-sama says, you've been busy too. Something about dual energy systems. It's a long story," Naruto said, glancing at Kakashi, who was studying him with unconcealed interest. "I'll explain on the way." Their journey to Sunagakure was swift and purposeful. Along the way, Naruto provided a condensed version of his training, the awakening of his Sukuna bloodline, the development of cursed energy techniques, and his evolving partnership with the Nine Tails. "So you're saying you can use both regular chakra and this cursed energy simultaneously?" Kakashi asked, his visible eye narrowed in thought. Naruto nodded. "They're completely different systems, but I can channel both at once. Cursed energy is more primal. It doesn't follow the same rules as chakra. It can cut through space itself, manipulate physical laws, even heal injuries that would be beyond medical ninjutsu." "That's incredible," Sakura murmured. Tsunade-sama mentioned something about a reverse curse technique that might revolutionize medical treatment. "Still working on mastering that one," Naruto admitted. "The principles are complex, reversing the flow of cursed energy to heal rather than harm. Kurama says Sukuna could regenerate entire limbs in seconds." The casual mention of the Nine Tails by name didn't go unnoticed. Kakashi and Sakura exchanged glances but chose not to comment. If Naruto had achieved some level of cooperation with the tailed beast, it was an advantage they wouldn't question. They arrived at Sunagakure to find the village in crisis. Kankuro had been poisoned attempting to pursue the Akatsuki members, and the village elders were in disarray without Gaara's leadership. Sakura immediately took charge of Kankuro's treatment, demonstrating her medical expertise by extracting the poison and developing an antidote. "Impressive," Naruto commented, watching her work with precision and confidence. "But maybe I can help speed things up." Approaching Kankuro's bedside, he placed a hand on the sand shinobi's chest. Purple-black energy flickered around his palm, flowing in a pattern opposite to what he normally used for offensive techniques. Reverse curse technique, he murmured, focusing intently. The poisoned tissues began to regenerate visibly, color returning to Kankaro's pallid face. It wasn't a complete healing. Naruto's mastery of the technique was still developing, but it accelerated the recovery process significantly. What did you just do? Sakura asked, amazed. Gave his cells a boost, Naruto explained, stepping back. The poison damaged a lot of tissue. The antidote will stop further damage, but his body still needs to repair what's already been hurt. I just encouraged that process. Kankaro's eyes fluttered open, focusing weakly on Naruto. You're that kid from the Chunin exams. Naruto smiled. Good to see you too, puppet boy. Where did they take Gaara? With Kankaro's information and the assistance of an elderly sand kunoichi named Chiyo, who turned out to be Sasori's grandmother, Team Kakashi set out toward the Akatsuki hideout. They were joined en route by Team Guy, providing additional combat power for what would certainly be a difficult battle. As they approached the sealed cave where Akatsuki was performing the extraction ritual, Naruto grew increasingly tense. He could sense multiple powerful chakra signatures inside, and something else, a disturbance in the natural energy that suggested the tailed beast extraction was already well underway. We need to hurry, he stated, his eyes flashing red momentarily. They're pulling Shikaku out of him. If they complete the extraction, Gaara will die. The entrance is sealed with a 5-point technique, Kakashi observed, studying the massive boulder blocking the cave. We need to locate and remove all 5 seals simultaneously. No time, Naruto replied, stepping forward. Purple-black energy began swirling around his body, concentrating in his outstretched hand. Everyone stand back. Naruto, what are you? Kakashi began, but fell silent as the energy around his former student intensified. Dismantle, Naruto stated calmly. An invisible force sliced through the massive boulder as if it were paper, creating a perfect vertical cut from top to bottom. A second dismantle created a horizontal cut, dividing the boulder into 4 sections that crumbled inward, revealing the cave beyond. The assembled shinobi stared in shock. That wasn't chakra, Niji murmured, his Byakugan active. I couldn't even see the attack pattern. Told you he'd gotten stronger, Tintin whispered to Lee, who was practically vibrating with excitement at witnessing such a display. Inside the cave, they found themselves facing 2 Akatsuki members, Deidara and Sasori, while the extraction ritual continued via spectral projections of the other members. The massive statue serving as the extraction vessel loomed over Gaara's limp form, streams of red chakra flowing from his body into the statue's gaping mouth. We're too late, Deidara smirked. The one tail is already half extracted. Your Kazekage friend will be dead within minutes. Not if I can help it, Naruto growled, his eyes shifting between their normal blue and a crimson red tinged with purple. He turned to Kakashi. Sensei, I need you to handle the bomber. Sakura and Lady Chiyo, take the puppet master. I'm going for Gaara. Before anyone could object, Naruto charged forward, moving with speed that left afterimages. Deidara attempted to intercept with explosive clay birds, but a casual cleave from Naruto's hand shredded them before they could detonate. What the? Deidara barely had time to register surprise before Kakashi engaged him, forcing the Akatsuki member to retreat outside the cave on one of his clay creations. Sasori, meanwhile, revealed his true form inside the puppet Hirako, confronting Sakura and his grandmother Chiyo in what would become a battle of puppet masters. Naruto focused entirely on reaching Gaara. The spectral projections of the other Akatsuki members attempted to intercept him, but their incorporeal forms could do little more than distract. The real challenge came from the extraction process itself. The chakra connecting Gaara to the statue created a barrier of sorts, disrupting anyone who attempted to interfere. Kurama, I need your help, Naruto communicated internally. How do we stop the extraction? The process is delicate, the fox replied. Disrupting it violently could kill the Jinchuriki instantly. We need to sever the connection carefully, then stabilize his tailed beast chakra. And how exactly do we do that? Domain expansion, Kurama suggested. Within your domain, you control the laws of reality. You could potentially isolate Gaara from the extraction technique without severing his connection to Shikaku too abruptly. It was risky. Naruto had never used his domain for such a precise application. But with Gaara's life slipping away with each passing second, there was no time for hesitation. Domain expansion, he called out, channeling cursed energy outward. Malevolent shrine. The purplish-black dome expanded around him and Gaara, encompassing a portion of the cave. Within this space, reality bent to Naruto's will. The spectral Akatsuki members found their projections distorted and weakened, their connection to the ritual disrupted. What is this technique? Pain's projection demanded, his Rinnegan eyes struggling to comprehend what they were witnessing. This is not normal chakra manipulation. Naruto ignored him, focusing entirely on Gaara. Placing his hands on the Kazekage's chest, he channeled a combination of his own chakra, Kurama's energy, and carefully controlled cursed energy into the fading Jinchuriki. "I'm creating a buffer," he explained to Kurama, replacing Shikaku's extracted chakra with our own to keep his system from collapsing. "Clever," the fox acknowledged, "but it's only temporary. Without Shikaku, his body will eventually reject any foreign chakra. Then we'll have to get Shikaku back," Naruto replied grimly, eyeing the statue where the One-Tail's chakra was being collected. As he stabilized Gaara's condition, the domain allowed him to perceive the extraction technique more clearly. It was a complex sealing formula that drew the tailed beast's chakra along specific pathways into the statue. With his enhanced perception, Naruto identified a critical junction in the process. "There," he murmured, extending a hand toward the statue. "Dismantle." The invisible cutting force sliced through one of the energetic pathways, disrupting the extraction ritual. The statue shuddered, and several of the Akatsuki projections flickered as feedback surged through their connection. "Impossible," one of them hissed. "He's interfering with the ritual directly." "We should retreat," another suggested. This was not anticipated. Pain's projection remained calm despite the disruption. "Interesting. Zetsu, gather information on this technique. Deidara, Sasori, complete your assignments and withdraw. The one-tail extraction is compromised, but we've gathered enough for analysis." The projections flickered out one by one, leaving only the physical members to deal with. Outside, the sounds of Kakashi's battle with Deidara continued, while Sakura and Chiyo's confrontation with Sasori had moved to another chamber of the cave. Naruto maintained his domain while performing a more complete reverse curse technique on Gaara, stabilizing his life force and establishing a temporary chakra network to replace what had been extracted. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it would keep the Kazekage alive until they could address the bigger problem. Shikaku's partially extracted chakra remained in the statue. "Can we get it back?" Naruto asked Kurama. "Theoretically," the fox replied, "but it would require breaking the statue's containment seals without releasing the other tailed beasts already stored within. One mistake could unleash catastrophe." Before Naruto could respond, a massive explosion shook the cave, Deidara's work, most likely. The distraction was enough to disrupt Naruto's concentration, causing his domain to flicker and collapse. As it did, he sensed a surge of chakra from the statue. Akatsuki had initiated some kind of emergency protocol, rapidly securing the extracted portion of Shikaku's chakra and rendering it inaccessible. "Damn it," Naruto muttered, focusing instead on stabilizing Gaara. The Kazekage's breathing had steadied, but he remained unconscious, his life force significantly weakened. Kakashi appeared at the cave entrance, his clothing singed but otherwise unharmed. Deidara escaped, he reported grimly. "Used a massive explosion as cover. How's Gaara?" "Alive, but barely," Naruto replied. "They got about half of Shikaku's chakra before I disrupted the extraction. I've stabilized him for now, but he needs specialized treatment." From the adjoining chamber, Sakura emerged supporting an exhausted Chiyo. Both women bore signs of an intense battle. "Sasori is defeated," Sakura reported. "Permanently. But Lady Chiyo is injured." The elderly puppeteer waved off concern. "Nothing fatal." More importantly, her eyes widened as she saw Gaara's breathing form. "He's alive? After a partial extraction? That should be impossible." Naruto did something, Kakashi explained inadequately, gesturing toward his former student. "Some kind of energy technique I've never seen before." Chiyo approached, her experienced eyes examining the complex energy patterns still visible around Gaara's body. "This isn't medical ninjutsu," she observed, "nor any elemental technique I recognize. It's called reverse curse technique," Naruto explained. "It's complicated. The important thing is that Gaara is stable for now, but we need to get him back to Sunagakure immediately. He's going to need special treatment to adapt to the partial loss of his tailed beast." Team Guy rejoined them, having successfully dealt with clone duplicates of themselves, another of Akatsuki's defensive measures. Together, they carefully transported Gaara back to his village, where Medical Ninja immediately took him for treatment under Sakura's direction. While the medical team worked, Naruto sat in meditation, communicating with Kurama about their next steps. "This changes things," the fox noted. "Akatsuki now knows about your cursed energy techniques. They'll adapt their strategies accordingly. Let them try," Naruto replied confidently. "They've never faced anything like us before." "Don't get cocky," Kurama warned. "They managed to extract half of Shikaku despite our interference. And they're still holding several other tailed beasts. All the more reason to stop them before they can capture any more," Naruto pointed out. "Including you." "Indeed." The fox was silent for a moment before continuing. "You did well today. The old Sukuna would have simply slaughtered everyone in that cave without concern for collateral damage. Your approach was more refined. Coming from Kurama, this was high praise indeed." Naruto smiled internally. "Thanks. We make a good team." Another brief silence. Then, "Yes, we do." It was the closest the fox had come to acknowledging their growing partnership as something beyond mere strategic alliance. The admission warmed Naruto in unexpected ways. Gaara regained consciousness the next day, weak but stable. The medical team, guided by Sakura's expertise and Naruto's insights into tailed beast chakra, had managed to stabilize his system despite the partial extraction. "You saved my life," Gaara stated when Naruto visited his recovery room. Again, Naruto shrugged. That's what friends do. The simple statement hung between them, powerful in its sincerity. Gaara, who had once known only hatred and isolation, now understood the true meaning of bonds, a lesson Naruto had taught him 3 years ago and reinforced today. "The village is calling you a hero," Gaara continued. "The ninja who challenged Akatsuki and rescued the Kazekage. Tales of your abilities are already spreading." "Great," Naruto sighed. "More attention I don't need." Gaara studied him with perceptive eyes. "You've changed." The Naruto I remember would have relished such recognition. A small smile tugged at Naruto's lips. "Maybe we've both grown up a bit." Their conversation was interrupted by a sand messenger reporting that Gaara's council was requesting his presence, despite medical recommendations for continued rest. The Kazekage rose with dignity, insisting on returning to his duties despite his weakened state. "Will you be all right?" Naruto asked, concerned. "With only half of Shikaku's chakra, I'll adapt," Gaara replied with quiet determination. "Perhaps this is an opportunity, a chance to find strength beyond the tailed beast's power." Naruto nodded in understanding. "If anyone can do it, you can." Team Kakashi and Team Guy departed Sunagakure the following day, heading back to Konoha with news of their partial success. Along the way, Naruto sensed they were being monitored, not actively pursued, but observed from a distance. "Someone's following us," he mentioned quietly to Kakashi as they made camp for the night. The Jonin nodded. "I've noticed. Akatsuki, most likely, gathering intelligence on your abilities after that display in the cave." "Let them watch," Naruto replied, unconcerned. "They'll learn I'm not an easy target." Upon returning to Konoha, they delivered their report directly to Tsunade, who listened with increasing interest to the description of Naruto's techniques during the mission. "So you were able to disrupt an Akatsuki ritual that even the Kazekage's best shinobi couldn't counter," she summarized, eyeing Naruto thoughtfully. "And you partially healed damage from a tailed beast extraction, something medical ninjutsu has always considered fatal and irreversible." "The healing wasn't perfect," Naruto admitted. "Gaara will never regain the extracted portion of Shikaku's chakra, but his system has stabilized around what remains. Still, it's unprecedented." Tsunade leaned forward, her medical curiosity piqued. "This reverse curse technique, you mentioned it could potentially regenerate entire limbs. Theoretically, Sukuna could do it, according to Kurama. I'm still working on mastering the finer applications." The casual reference to conversations with the Nine Tails drew raised eyebrows from several people in the room, but Tsunade merely nodded, accepting this development as she had accepted so many other unexpected turns in her long career. "I want you to work with Sakura and the medical corps when you have time," she decided. "If this technique can be adapted or even partially taught to medical ninja, it could revolutionize our healing capabilities." Naruto agreed, though privately he doubted the technique could be taught to those without cursed energy. Still, principles could be shared, approaches adapted. The next few weeks passed in relative calm. Naruto divided his time between training, consulting with the medical corps, and reconnecting with friends who marveled at his transformation. Shikamaru, now a Chunin with significant tactical responsibilities, was particularly interested in understanding the strategic applications of cursed energy techniques. "Troublesome, as always," the Nara genius commented after Naruto demonstrated a small-scale domain expansion. "You've basically created a space where you dictate reality." the tactical advantages are substantial. It has limitations, Naruto clarified. Maintaining a domain requires intense concentration and continuous energy output. Against multiple high-level opponents, it's difficult to maintain while also executing techniques. Still, Shikamaru mused, if applied correctly in the right circumstances. Their strategic discussions were interrupted by an urgent summons from Tsunade. Arriving at her office, Naruto found Sakura, Kakashi, and an unfamiliar pale-skinned young man waiting. Team Kakashi has a new mission, Tsunade announced without preamble. We've received intelligence about a potential Akatsuki spy at the Tenchi Bridge. This is an opportunity to gather information about their organization, and possibly about Orochimaru's whereabouts, which may lead us to Sasuke. Naruto's expression remained neutral at the mention of his former teammate, but Kurama sensed the subtle shift in his emotions. Despite 3 years of growth and maturity, the promise to bring Sasuke home remained an unhealed wound. The pale guy is Sai, Tsunade continued, gesturing to the expressionless young man. He'll be joining your team temporarily. And since Kakashi is still recovering from chakra exhaustion after your last mission, Yamato will serve as team leader. A Jonin stepped forward from the shadows, another unfamiliar face with serious eyes and a headpiece framing his face. Captain Yamato has relevant experience for this mission, Tsunade added cryptically, specifically in dealing with tailed beast chakra. Naruto understood the implication immediately. This man was insurance in case he lost control of Kurama's power. An unnecessary precaution given their current partnership, but he didn't bother explaining that. Let them discover the truth when it mattered. The mission briefing continued with details about the rendezvous point and known intelligence. Throughout, Naruto noticed Sai watching him with an unreadable expression, assessing, calculating, almost mechanical in his observation. Something on your mind? Naruto finally asked as they left the Hokage Tower. Sai's face formed what appeared to be a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. I was just wondering if you live up to your reputation. The Jinchuriki who disrupted an Akatsuki ritual and saved the Kazekage. Quite impressive on paper. I guess you'll find out, Naruto replied evenly, unruffled by the implied challenge. As they prepared for departure, Sakura pulled Naruto aside. Be careful around Sai, she warned quietly. There's something off about him. He doesn't seem like a normal shinobi. I noticed, Naruto agreed. He has no scent of emotion, like he's been trained to suppress everything. Reminds me of Root operatives I've encountered. Sakura's eyes widened slightly. Root? Danzo's secret faction? How would you know about that? Naruto smiled enigmatically. Jiraiya isn't just a pervert. He's Konoha's spy master. I picked up a few things during our travels. This was partially true, though much of his intelligence came from Kurama, whose enhanced senses could detect subtleties most humans missed. The fox had identified something in Sai's chakra pattern, a subtle alteration suggesting forbidden conditioning techniques. Their journey to the Tenchi Bridge was tense, but uneventful. Yamato proved to be a capable leader, if somewhat reserved. Sai maintained his artificial pleasantness, occasionally making socially inappropriate comments that particularly aggravated Sakura. Naruto, for his part, remained watchful but relaxed, conserving energy for what he suspected would be a challenging encounter. The bridge itself was located in a remote area, spanning a deep ravine between forested cliffs. Team Kakashi arrived early, establishing surveillance positions while Yamato prepared to transform himself to impersonate the expected contact. The spy should arrive within the hour, Yamato explained. I'll approach as Sasori, based on the information Lady Chiyo provided about his appearance inside Hirako. The rest of you maintain your positions and await my signal. As they settled into their hiding spots, Naruto closed his eyes briefly, extending his senses. Enhanced by both Kurama's abilities and cursed energy, his perception reached far beyond normal human capacity. Something's not right, he murmured to Sakura, who was positioned nearby. There are multiple chakra signatures approaching from different directions. This feels like a trap, she finished grimly. Before they could alert Yamato, a figure appeared at the opposite end of the bridge, a hooded form that moved with sinuous grace. As Yamato, disguised as Sasori, approached to make contact, the hood fell back to reveal a face that sent a chill through the watching team. Kabuto Yakushi, Orochimaru's right-hand man. The conversation between Sasori and Kabuto seemed to proceed as expected until a third presence materialized behind Kabuto, a slender figure with long black hair and snake-like eyes that were visible even at this distance. Orochimaru, Naruto whispered, tensing. Events unfolded rapidly after that. Kabuto, apparently having broken free of Sasori's control at some point, attacked Yamato, exposing his disguise. Orochimaru intervened, clearly interested in the Leaf Shinobi who had infiltrated his network. Within moments, the pretense of a simple intelligence-gathering mission had shattered, and Team Kakashi found themselves confronting two of the most dangerous missing nin in the shinobi world. "We should assist Captain Yamato," Sakura suggested, preparing to move. "Wait," Naruto cautioned, his eyes tracking subtle movements in the surrounding forest. "There are more hostiles nearby." This entire setup was designed to draw us out. As if confirming his suspicion, multiple sound ninja emerged from concealed positions surrounding the bridge. Among them was a familiar figure that caused Naruto's breath to catch momentarily, a black-haired young man with cold eyes and a sword at his hip. "Sasuke," Sakura whispered, her voice a mixture of shock and longing. 3 years had changed him significantly. Taller, leaner, with a hardened expression that spoke of ruthless training. He wore Orochimaru's signature rope belt over dark clothing, and his chakra signature had a corrupted quality that suggested heavy use of the cursed seal. Naruto studied his former teammate dispassionately, noting the changes with tactical precision rather than emotional reaction. The Sasuke before them was stronger, certainly, but also unstable, the cursed seal's influence evident in the fluctuating patterns of his chakra. "Stay focused," he reminded Sakura, whose emotions were more visibly affected. "This isn't a rescue mission. It's an intelligence operation that's turning into an ambush." On the bridge, Orochimaru was speaking to Yamato with the casual menace that characterized all his interactions. "How interesting. A wood-style user, one of my old experiments, all grown up. Hiruzen must have been desperate to deploy you." Yamato maintained his composure despite the dangerous situation. "I'm merely here to gather information, nothing more." "Of course," Orochimaru smiled, the expression never reaching his serpentine eyes. "And your teammates hiding in the trees? Are they also here just for information?" It was a clear invitation or challenge. After a moment's consideration, Naruto signaled to the others. "We're compromised. Follow my lead, but be prepared to retreat on my signal." Stepping from their concealment, Team Kakashi revealed themselves. Orochimaru's eyes widened slightly as they settled on Naruto, recognition and interest sharpening his gaze. "The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki," he observed. "I've heard fascinating reports about your recent activities. Something about disrupting an Akatsuki ritual with techniques that weren't chakra-based." Naruto didn't respond to the provocation, instead scanning the assembled enemies with calculating eyes. 7 sound ninja, including Sasuke, plus Kabuto and Orochimaru himself. Difficult odds, especially given the Sannin's legendary abilities. "We're not here to fight," Yamato stated firmly. "Our mission was diplomatic in nature." "Spare me," Orochimaru replied dismissively. "Konoha has been seeking my whereabouts for years, but I admit, I'm curious about certain developments." His gaze returned to Naruto. "Specifically, these unusual abilities you've manifested. Not the Nine-Tails power, something else. Something older." The specific knowledge sent a warning signal through Naruto's mind. How much did Orochimaru know about cursed energy? Had he been researching Sukuna's bloodline? "Careful," Kurama warned internally. "The snake has always been too curious for his own good. If he suspects the nature of your bloodline." Naruto gave no outward indication of the internal conversation, maintaining an impassive expression. "If you're hoping for a demonstration, you'll be disappointed. We're leaving." "Oh, I don't think so," Orochimaru smiled. "Sasuke, why don't you reacquaint yourself with your former teammates? Consider it a training exercise." Sasuke stepped forward, his expression cold and distant. "Naruto." "Sakura." His acknowledgement was emotionless, merely identifying targets rather than greeting former friends. "Sasuke," Naruto replied evenly. "You look well-trained." Is Orochimaru's leash comfortable? A flicker of anger crossed Sasuke's face, the first genuine emotion he'd displayed. "I have no leash. I sought power, and I found it." "Did you?" Naruto asked quietly. "Or did you find a pale imitation of what true strength could be?" The provocation was deliberate, a test of Sasuke's emotional state and control. The response was immediate. A burst of speed that brought the Uchiha directly before Naruto, sword drawn in a horizontal slash aimed at the throat. Naruto didn't dodge. Instead, purple-black energy flickered around his hand as he simply reached up and caught the blade between 2 fingers, stopping it cold. Sasuke's eyes widened, the Sharingan activating automatically in response to unexpected threat. "What?" "Cursed energy," Naruto explained calmly, still holding the blade. "Stronger than steel, faster than lightning, and completely invisible to the Sharingan." One of many things you might have learned if you'd stayed in Konoha. With a casual flick of his fingers, he sent a pulse of cursed energy through the sword, shattering the blade into fragments that scattered across the bridge. The demonstration had the intended effect, not just on Sasuke, whose shock was evident, but on Orochimaru, whose scientific curiosity visibly intensified. Fascinating, the Sannin murmured. Not chakra-based at all, yet capable of physical manipulation. A Kekkei Genkai, perhaps? Or something more exotic. You're fishing in waters too deep for you, Snake, Naruto replied, allowing a hint of Kurama's growl to color his voice. We're leaving. Now, Orochimaru's eyes narrowed at the dismissal. I think not. Kabuto, the formula. The silver-haired medic quickly formed a complex sequence of hand signs, culminating in a technique that sent visible waves of disruption through the air, a chakra suppression field designed to neutralize ninjutsu within its radius. Your unusual abilities may be impressive, Orochimaru explained with smug confidence, but without access to the Nine-Tails chakra, you're at a significant disadvantage. Naruto smiled, genuinely amused. You still don't understand what you're dealing with. Extending his hand, he channeled pure cursed energy, no chakra involved, into a technique that sliced through Kabuto's suppression field as if it were cobwebs. Dismantle. The invisible cutting force continued past the disrupted technique, slicing through the bridge supports and creating a widening chasm between the two groups. As the structure began to collapse, Naruto turned to his teammates. Now, he commanded, and Team Kakashi leapt back toward their side of the ravine. Orochimaru, however, was not so easily deterred. His neck extended unnaturally, snake-like head lunging across the growing gap with fangs bared, not to attack, but to speak directly into Naruto's ear. The Sukuna bloodline, he hissed, the words meant for Naruto alone. After all these centuries, it manifests again. We will have much to discuss when next we meet. Naruto Uzumaki. Before Naruto could respond, the Sannin retracted, rejoining his subordinates on the far side of the collapsing bridge. Sasuke gave one last unreadable look before they all disappeared into the forest. That was unexpected, Yamato commented as they regrouped at a safe distance. Are you alright, Naruto? What did Orochimaru say to you? Nothing important, Naruto lied smoothly. Just threats and grandstanding. But internally, he was deeply troubled. Orochimaru's specific knowledge of the Sukuna bloodline suggested research and preparation. The Sannin hadn't been surprised by the cursed energy techniques. He'd been expecting them, studying them from afar. He knows too much, Kurama agreed grimly. The snake has always been obsessed with immortality and forbidden techniques. If he's researched Sukuna's history, then he might know things about my bloodline that even we don't. Naruto completed the thought. This complicates matters. The journey back to Konoha was tense, with Sakura withdrawn and emotional after the encounter with Sasuke, Sai unervingly observant, and Yamato concerned about the mission's unexpected turn. Naruto maintained a calm exterior while internally processing what had transpired. Their report to Tsunade was detailed but raised more questions than it answered. The Hokage was particularly concerned about Orochimaru's apparent interest in Naruto's abilities. If he's researching your bloodline specifically, that suggests a targeted interest, she observed. Not just scientific curiosity, but strategic planning. I got the same impression, Naruto agreed. He seemed almost expectant, like he'd been waiting to confirm something he already suspected. Tsunade's expression darkened. That's concerning. Orochimaru's interest is never benign. I want you to work with our intelligence division to compile everything we know about this Sukuna bloodline. Historical references, documented abilities, potential weaknesses. If Orochimaru is building a strategy against you, we need to be prepared. The following weeks were devoted to intensive research and training. Naruto worked with Konoha's historians and the intelligence division, piecing together fragments of information about his ancestor. The records were sparse. Sukuna had existed before the founding of the hidden villages, during an era when record-keeping was less systematic. What they did find, however, painted a picture of tremendous power and terrible cruelty. The King of Curses, one ancient text named him, possessor of 2 faces and 4 arms, devourer of villages, slayer of sorcerers, charming ancestor. Naruto commented dryly to Kurama during one research session. Makes you look positively friendly by comparison. The fox snorted. Sukuna earned his reputation. Unlike me, he chose his path of destruction willingly, even eagerly. He reveled in demonstrating his superiority through overwhelming force. And yet you formed a partnership with him? There was a pause before Kurama responded, his tone reflective. It was different then. I was younger, angrier, more interested in chaos than stability. Sukuna understood power in ways few humans ever have. He respected mine, and I respected his. It was simpler. The hint of nostalgia in the fox's voice was unexpected, suggesting depths to the ancient partnership that Naruto hadn't considered. You miss him, he realized. Perhaps, Kurama acknowledged reluctantly. He was many things: cruel, arrogant, merciless, but never boring. And he kept his word, which is rare enough among your kind. This glimpse into Kurama's past relationship with Sukuna provided new context for their own evolving partnership. The fox had experienced genuine connection before, not just the forced subjugation of previous Jinchuriki seals, but willing collaboration based on mutual respect. As they continued their research, a message arrived from the hidden sand. Gaara had stabilized completely and was gradually adapting to his new state as a partial Jinchuriki. The medical techniques Sakura had shared, combined with the temporary effects of Naruto's reverse curse technique, had allowed Suna's healers to develop protocols for maintaining the Kazekage's health despite the chakra imbalance. "This is unprecedented," Tsunade commented when reviewing the report. "A Jinchuriki surviving partial extraction. The implications for our understanding of tailed beast sealing are significant." "It's not a path I'd recommend," Naruto replied seriously. "Gaara is only stable because we interrupted the extraction before it was complete. And even then, he's permanently weakened." The research was interrupted by urgent news. Akatsuki had been spotted in Fire Country, specifically two members identified as Haiden and Kakuzu, a duo known for their immortality techniques and bounty hunting. Intelligence suggested they were targeting another Jinchuriki, possibly the Two-Tails Jinchuriki from Cloud. "We can't allow them to capture another tailed beast," Tsunade declared. Team Kakashi will join with Team Asuma to intercept and neutralize this threat. The combined team departed immediately, with Kakashi recovered enough to resume leadership. Their tracking led them to a disturbing scene. The aftermath of a battle where evidence suggested the Two-Tails Jinchuriki had indeed been captured. "We're too late," Shikamaru observed grimly, examining scorch marks characteristic of the Two-Tails fire techniques. "They've already taken her." "Maybe not," Naruto replied, extending his senses. Enhanced by both Kurama's abilities and cursed energy, he could detect traces of chakra trails that others missed. "The extraction requires a specific location and several days to complete. If we move quickly, we might intercept them before they reach their hideout." Following Naruto's lead, they tracked the Akatsuki members through the forest, eventually coming upon an unexpected scene. Haiden and Kakuzu engaged in combat with a group of hidden Cloud ninja who had apparently been pursuing their captured comrade. The Cloud shinobi were clearly outmatched. Two already lay motionless on the ground, while the remaining three struggled against Haiden's ritual techniques and Kakuzu's hardened body. "We need to intervene," Kakashi decided. "Shikamaru, analyze and develop a strategy. Everyone else, prepare to engage on my signal." "Wait," Naruto interrupted, his eyes fixed on the battle. "Something's not right. The Two-Tails Jinchuriki isn't with them. And they're moving away from known Akatsuki hideouts, not toward them." Shikamaru's sharp mind immediately grasped the implication. A diversion? They're drawing attention while the real extraction happens elsewhere. "Exactly," Naruto confirmed. "These two are the distraction. The real target must be elsewhere." As they debated their next move, the situation below deteriorated rapidly. Haiden completed a ritual circle, linking himself to one of the Cloud ninja, a technique that allowed him to transfer any damage he received to his victim. Kakuzu, meanwhile, revealed a disturbing ability to extend black threads from his body, capturing another opponent. "We can't just watch them die," Asuma insisted, preparing to engage. "Agreed," Kakashi nodded. "New plan. Asuma's team will assist the Cloud ninja against these two." "Naruto, can you track the real extraction site?" Naruto closed his eyes, extending his senses to their limit. The faint signature of the Two-Tails chakra was detectable, but distant, moving rapidly northeast. "I can find it," he confirmed, "but we'll need to move fast." The teams separated, with Asuma leading his group to intervene in the ongoing battle while Naruto, Kakashi, Sakura, and Sai pursued the true objective. As they departed, they heard the sounds of combat erupting behind them, Asuma's distinctive wind techniques clashing with Haiden's maniacal laughter. Following the faint trail of Bijou Chakra led them to a concealed cave complex similar to the one where they had confronted Deidara and Sasori. Inside, they found a smaller version of the extraction statue with the Two-Tails Jinchuriki, a blonde woman in cloud attire, suspended before it. Only 2 Akatsuki members were present, a orange-haired figure with multiple piercings and a blue-haired woman with a paper flower in her hair. Pain and Konan, Kakashi identified quietly as they observed from concealment. The leaders of Akatsuki, according to intelligence. This is unexpected. They rarely engage directly. It's a trap, Naruto stated with certainty. They knew we'd track them. They're waiting for us. For you specifically, perhaps, Kakashi suggested. After your interference with the one-tail extraction, you've become a priority target. Naruto nodded grimly. Then let's not disappoint them. Their plan was straightforward but risky. Kakashi and Sakura would create a diversion while Naruto used his domain expansion to isolate the Jinchuriki and disrupt the extraction. Sai would provide aerial support and emergency extraction if needed. The execution, however, proved more challenging than anticipated. As soon as they initiated their attack, Pain revealed why he was considered Akatsuki's most formidable member. The Rinnegan, legendary dojutsu of the Sage of Six Paths. Almighty push, he intoned, and an invisible force sent Kakashi and Sakura crashing into the cave walls with tremendous power. Naruto, prepared for some form of counterattack, had anchored himself with cursed energy. Even so, the technique's power pushed him back several meters, his feet carving furrows in the stone floor. Impressive resistance, Pain observed, his ringed eyes fixing on Naruto. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, I presume? Your reputation precedes you, as does yours, Naruto replied, gathering cursed energy around his body. The so-called god of Amage Cure. Let's see how divine you really are. What followed was the most challenging battle of Naruto's life thus far. Pain's Rinnegan abilities were diverse and powerful. Gravitational manipulation, summonings, chakra absorption, mechanical enhancements. Konan, meanwhile, demonstrated the ability to transform her body into paper, creating thousands of explosive tags that filled the air like deadly butterflies. Naruto countered with the full range of his developed abilities. Dismantle and cleave sliced through Pain's summonings. Cursed energy techniques neutralized Konan's paper attacks. When Pain attempted to absorb his chakra, Naruto switched seamlessly to pure cursed energy, which the Rinnegan user couldn't process. What is this power? Pain demanded after a particularly effective counter left one of his mechanical enhancements in pieces. This isn't the Nine-Tails chakra. Something older, Naruto replied, purple-black energy swirling visibly around him now. Something beyond your comprehension. The battle reached a critical juncture when Pain unleashed a massive gravitational pull, attempting to drag Naruto toward him for what would likely be a fatal attack. Instead of resisting, Naruto allowed himself to be pulled forward, but activated his domain expansion at the precise moment he entered Pain's personal space. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine, he called out. The purplish-black dome expanded outward, encompassing Pain, Konan, and the extraction apparatus. Within this domain, Naruto's cursed techniques gained overwhelming potency, while Pain's Rinnegan abilities became slightly dulled, not neutralized, but less effective, as if operating through interference. Impossible, Pain murmured, experiencing for the first time in years the sensation of being outmatched. This technique, it alters reality itself. Exactly, Naruto confirmed, extending a hand toward the extraction statue. Dismantle. The invisible cutting force, enhanced by the domain's properties, sliced through the statue's base, disrupting the extraction process. As the apparatus began to collapse, Naruto moved with enhanced speed to catch the falling Jinchuriki. Pain attempted to intercept, but within the domain, Naruto's perception and reaction time were significantly enhanced. He avoided the attack with seeming ease, secured the unconscious woman, and signaled to his teammates. Retreat. Now, he called out, maintaining the domain while moving toward the cave entrance. Kakashi and Sakura, having recovered from the initial attack, provided covering fire with lightning and earth techniques. Sai swooped in on an ink-created bird, providing aerial extraction for the injured Cloud Kunoichi. Their escape was chaotic but successful. Pain and Konan pursued briefly but broke off when reinforcements arrived. Might Guy's team, dispatched by Tsunade as backup when the situation's severity became clear. That was too close, Kakashi commented once they were safely away, regrouping in a forest clearing. Pain's abilities are even more formidable than intelligence suggested. Naruto nodded, breathing heavily from the exertion of maintaining his domain during combat and escape. The Rinnegan gives him access to all 5 basic nature transformations, plus gravity manipulation, soul extraction, mechanical control. It's an overwhelming arsenal. Yet you matched him, Kakashi observed thoughtfully. Your cursed energy techniques seem to counter his abilities effectively. Not countered, disrupted, Naruto clarified. The domain creates a space where my cursed energy is dominant, diluting other forms of power. It doesn't negate them completely, just tilts the playing field in my favor. The rescued Jinchuriki, introduced as Yujito Ni of the Hidden Cloud, regained consciousness during their journey back to Konoha. Her reaction to being saved by Leaf Ninja was initially suspicious, but softened when she understood the circumstances. "You risked your lives to save me," she observed, studying Naruto with particular interest. Another Jinchuriki. "We couldn't let Akatsuki capture another tailed beast," Naruto explained simply. Yujito's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's not the whole truth. You have a personal stake in this, as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki." Naruto didn't deny it. "Yes, but that doesn't make the rescue any less genuine." The Cloud Kunoichi seemed to accept this, though her wariness remained. Years of being viewed as a weapon rather than a person had left her skeptical of others' motives. When they arrived at Konoha, however, somber news awaited. During the battle with Haiden and Kakuzu, Asuma Sarutobi had been critically injured. Despite Ino's medical efforts and reinforcements from the village, he had succumbed to his wounds. The news cast a pall over their successful rescue, a harsh reminder that even victories came with costs in the shinobi world. Naruto attended the funeral alongside his friends. Watching as Shikamaru stood stoic but devastated, Ino wept openly, and Choji provided silent support to both. The sight reminded him painfully of his own losses. The third Hokage, who had been like a grandfather to him, his parents, whom he had never known, and in a different sense, Sasuke, whose path had diverged so dramatically from his own. After the ceremony, he found Shikamaru alone at the training ground, staring at a shogi board with unfocused eyes. "He was proud of you," Naruto said quietly, sitting across from his friend. "Asuma, he told me once that you were the future of the village, the kind of mind that would lead the next generation to peace." Shikamaru looked up, his usual laziness replaced by a sharp, focused grief. "Peace? We're shinobi. We live by taking life, by strategic violence. What peace can come from that? The kind that's built on understanding rather than fear," Naruto replied. "On alliance rather than domination." Pretty words, Shikamaru scoffed, though without real malice. But Akatsuki isn't interested in understanding. They're collecting tailed beasts for power, pure and simple. "Then we need to understand why," Naruto pressed. "What drives them? What pain or fear or ambition pushes them to such extremes? No one becomes a monster without a reason." The Nara genius studied him with renewed interest. "You've changed, Naruto." The loudmouthed kid who proclaimed he'd be Hokage would have just vowed to crush them all. A small smile touched Naruto's lips. "I've had good teachers, and not just Jiraiya." The unspoken reference to Kurama hung between them, known to Shikamaru through intelligence briefings, if not personal disclosure. The shadow user nodded slowly, accepting this evolution without further comment. "I'm going after them," he stated instead. "Haiden and Kakuzu. For Asuma." "I know," Naruto replied. "And I'll help, but not for revenge, for justice, and to prevent more deaths." The distinction was important, not just philosophically but practically. Revenge clouded judgment, led to recklessness. Justice required clarity, strategy, precision. Shikamaru seemed to understand this, his tactical mind already shifting from grief to planning. Haiden is effectively immortal through some kind of ritual technique. Kakuzu has 5 hearts, each with different elemental affinities. Standard approaches won't work. "Then we'll use non-standard approaches," Naruto suggested. "My cursed energy techniques don't follow normal elemental weaknesses. And immortality often has hidden limitations." They spent hours developing a strategy, incorporating Naruto's unique abilities into Shikamaru's brilliant tactical framework. By evening, they had a plan that Tsunade reluctantly approved. A targeted mission to eliminate the Akatsuki members who had killed Asuma. The mission commenced the following day with a small, specialized team. Shikamaru for tactical leadership and his shadow binding techniques. Naruto for his versatile cursed energy abilities. Kakashi for experience and lightning techniques, and Ino for medical support and mind-based reconnaissance. Tracking Haiden and Kakuzu proved easier than expected. The immortal duo made little effort to conceal their movements, confident in their combat prowess. They found their targets in a clearing near Fire Country's border, apparently waiting for their next assignment from Akatsuki leadership. Shikamaru's plan called for separation of the duo, dealing with the more vulnerable Haiden first before confronting the 5-hearted Kakuzu. The initial engagement went according to plan. Shikamaru's shadow techniques immobilized Haiden long enough for the team to lure him away from his partner. Kakuzu, recognizing the tactical disadvantage, attempted to pursue but was delayed by Kakashi's lightning techniques and Naruto's strategic application of dismantle to reshape the battlefield itself, creating chasms and barriers that forced the ancient bounty hunter to take a longer route. Isolated, Haiden proved vulnerable to Shikamaru's carefully prepared trap, a pit specially designed to imprison the immortal, with seals that would prevent any rescue. As Haiden fell into the prepared grave, screaming curses and threats, Shikamaru performed a ritual of his own, not of violence, but of closure, dedicating the victory to Asuma's memory before triggering explosive tags that buried the immortal deep beneath the earth. Unable to die, but unable to escape, Shikamaru explained grimly. He'll eventually stop thinking altogether. With Haiden neutralized, they regrouped to confront Kakuzu, only to find that the ancient ninja had not pursued as expected. Instead, he had circled around, attempting to flank them. The error in their timing nearly proved fatal, as Kakuzu launched a devastating combination attack, using 3 elemental masks simultaneously. "Watch out," Kakashi shouted, barely deflecting a lightning attack with his own technique. The battlefield erupted in elemental chaos, fire, wind, and lightning techniques filling the air with destructive energy. Ino was caught in the periphery of a blast, sustaining injuries that took her out of the direct combat. Kakashi engaged one of Kakuzu's masks directly, while Shikamaru attempted to bind the main body with his shadow techniques. Naruto, however, saw an opportunity in the chaos. Rather than defending against the elemental onslaught, he charged directly into it, cursed energy creating a protective layer around his body. "Domain expansion," he called out as he reached the center of Kakuzu's position. "Malevolent Shrine." The purple-black dome expanded outward, encompassing Kakuzu and his detached heart masks. Within this controlled space, Naruto's techniques gained devastating effectiveness. "What is this?" Kakuzu demanded, his centuries of experience having never encountered such a phenomenon. "Some kind of barrier technique?" "Something much worse," Naruto replied, extending his hand. "For you, at least." Cleave. The technique, which adjusted its cutting power based on the target's own strength, sliced through one of Kakuzu's masks with ease, destroying the heart contained within. Before the ancient ninja could recover from the shock, Naruto continued his assault, systematically targeting each mask with precision techniques. Kakuzu, realizing the danger, attempted to escape the domain, only to discover that within this space, Naruto's perception and reaction time were enhanced to the point where evasion became nearly impossible. One by one, the masks were destroyed, each representing a heart taken from powerful shinobi over Kakuzu's long career. With only his original heart remaining, Kakuzu resorted to desperate measures, hardening his body with earth-release techniques to create an impenetrable defense. It might have worked against normal attacks, but cursed energy operated on different principles. "Your technique is impressive," Naruto acknowledged as he approached the defensive Kakuzu. "But there's a fundamental difference between our powers. Yours manipulates the elements, fire, earth, water. Mine manipulates reality itself." With the final application of dismantle, he bypassed Kakuzu's hardened skin entirely, cutting directly to the heart beneath. The ancient bounty hunter collapsed, his centuries-long existence finally ended by a technique he couldn't comprehend. As the domain dissipated, Naruto turned to find his teammates watching with expressions ranging from relief to awe. "That was..." Kakashi began, then shook his head, apparently unable to find appropriate words. "Efficient," Shikamaru supplied, his tactical mind already analyzing what he had witnessed. "Your domain neutralizes most advantages an opponent might have: speed, strength, elemental affinities. Within that space, you dictate the terms of engagement almost completely. It has limitations," Naruto clarified, not wanting to create false impressions of invincibility. "Maintaining it consumes massive amounts of energy. Against multiple high-level opponents, I might not be able to sustain it long enough to be decisive." Still, the demonstration had been impressive and concerning from a certain perspective. The power to create a space where reality itself bent to one's will was the kind of ability that could destabilize the entire shinobi world if misused. Returning to Konoha with news of their success, they found the village in a state of heightened alert. Intelligence had confirmed that Itachi Uchiha had been sighted nearby, apparently separate from his Akatsuki partner Kisame. "It could be an opportunity," Tsunade suggested during their debriefing. Itachi alone is formidable but potentially approachable. If we could capture or persuade him to share intelligence about Akatsuki's plans. The implication was clear and personally significant for Naruto. Itachi was Sasuke's brother, the catalyst for his friend's dark path. Understanding Itachi might provide insights into reaching Sasuke. "I'll go," Naruto volunteered. "My techniques give me some protection against his Genjutsu. Cursed energy operates independently of chakra flow, so his Sharingan can't completely control me." Tsunade considered this. "Take Kakashi with you. His experience with the Sharingan could be valuable. But this is reconnaissance only. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary." The mission began as a straightforward tracking operation. Itachi's last known location was a small inn near the border of Fire Country, where he had apparently been staying alone. Unusual for an Akatsuki member, who typically operated in pairs. "It feels like a trap," Kakashi commented as they approached the inn. "Itachi is too careful to leave such an obvious trail unless he wants to be found." "Agreed," Naruto replied. "But by whom? Us specifically or someone else?" The answer came in an unexpected form. As they conducted surveillance from a nearby tree line, another figure approached the inn from the opposite direction. A familiar silhouette with spiky hair and a sword strapped to his back. "Sasuke," Naruto whispered, tension evident in his voice. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed. "This complicates matters. If Sasuke is here for Itachi, then we're about to witness a battle between brothers," Naruto completed grimly. "One that's been brewing for nearly a decade." They watched as Sasuke entered the inn, his purposeful stride suggesting absolute determination. Minutes passed in tense silence before the building's roof suddenly exploded outward, flames erupting into the sky. The distinctive black fire of Amaterasu, Itachi's legendary technique. Two figures emerged from the destruction, engaged in high-speed combat that was difficult to track even with enhanced perception. Itachi, wearing his Akatsuki cloak, moved with fluid grace despite an apparent illness that occasionally disrupted his rhythm. Sasuke attacked with murderous intent, his cursed seal activated and transforming parts of his body into grotesque wing-like appendages. "We should maintain our distance," Kakashi advised. "This is a family matter with years of hatred behind it. Interfering could make things worse." Naruto wanted to agree. The logical part of him recognized the wisdom in Kakashi's words. But something deeper, an intuition enhanced by both Kurama's instincts and his own empathetic nature, sensed wrongness in the unfolding confrontation. "Something's not right," he murmured, focusing his enhanced perception on the brothers' battle. Itachi's movements, they're measured, precise, but not killing blows. He's leading Sasuke somewhere. Kakashi studied the battle with his Sharingan exposed. "You're right. This isn't a true fight to the death, at least not from Itachi's side. He's guiding the confrontation." They followed at a distance as the battle moved from the inn to an abandoned Uchiha hideout several kilometers away. The structure was ancient, bearing the faded Uchiha crest and emanating an aura of forgotten power. Inside, the brothers' battle escalated to their most powerful techniques. Sasuke unleashed Kirin, a lightning technique of tremendous power that harnessed natural lightning from storm clouds overhead. Itachi countered with Susanoo, a spectral warrior form that represented the ultimate evolution of the Sharingan. Watching from concealment, Naruto and Kakashi witnessed what appeared to be Itachi's final moments. Cornered, exhausted, reaching towards Sasuke with bloodstained fingers before collapsing in apparent death. "It's over," Kakashi murmured, surprise evident in his voice. Sasuke has achieved his revenge, but Naruto wasn't convinced. Something in Itachi's final gestures, the way he had touched Sasuke's forehead in what seemed almost like affection, it didn't align with the narrative of the clan-killing monster that had driven Sasuke's hatred for years. Their observation was interrupted by the arrival of a masked figure who emerged from the shadows once Sasuke collapsed from exhaustion. The orange spiral mask and Akatsuki cloak identified him immediately. "Tobi," Kakashi whispered. "Or whoever he really is." They watched as the masked man collected both Itachi's body and the unconscious Sasuke, disappearing with a space-time technique before they could intervene. "We need to report this immediately," Kakashi decided. "If that masked Akatsuki member has Sasuke." Naruto nodded grimly. The mission had taken an unexpected turn, with implications that extended far beyond their original reconnaissance objective. Sasuke had achieved his life's goal, killing Itachi, only to fall into the hands of another Akatsuki member with unknown intentions. Upon their return to Konoha, their report caused significant concern among the village leadership. The possibility of Sasuke being recruited directly into Akatsuki represented a serious security threat, given his knowledge of Konoha's defenses and capabilities. "We need more information," Tsunade declared. "About this masked Akatsuki member, about their plans for Sasuke, about everything." Jiraiya has been tracking leads in Amigakure, Akatsuki's suspected headquarters. His intelligence could be crucial. The mention of his mentor brought a smile to Naruto's face. He hadn't seen Jiraiya in months, the Sannin having departed on a deep-cover intelligence mission shortly after their return to Konoha. The prospect of reuniting with his teacher and potentially gaining intelligence that could help reach Sasuke was heartening. However, when Jiraiya's next report arrived, it contained disturbing information that changed their priorities entirely. The Toad Sage had confirmed that Pain, the Akatsuki leader Naruto had encountered during the Two Tails rescue, was based in Amigakure. More concerningly, he had discovered connections between Pain and a figure from his past, a student he had trained during the Second Shinobi World War. "He's going to investigate personally," Tsunade explained, concern evident in her voice. "Infiltrate Amigakure to confirm the identity of this Pain character." "That's extremely dangerous," Naruto objected. "Amigakure is Akatsuki's stronghold, and Pain has the Rinnegan. Even for someone of Pervy Sage's caliber." "I know," Tsunade agreed grimly. "I've expressed the same concerns. But Jiraiya insists this is personal, a responsibility he needs to face directly." The weeks that followed were tense, with limited communication from Jiraiya as he infiltrated the closely guarded village. Naruto divided his time between training, refining his domain techniques, and developing new applications of cursed energy and missions targeting lesser Akatsuki operatives identified by intelligence. Then, abruptly, communication from Jiraiya ceased entirely. "It could be security protocols," Tsunade suggested when the silence extended to a week. Deep cover sometimes requires radio silence, but as days stretched into a second week, concern deepened into dread. When a small toad messenger finally appeared, bearing coded information written on its back, the news confirmed their worst fears. Jiraiya had engaged Pain directly and been overwhelmed by the Rinnegan user's abilities. The coded message was incomplete, suggesting it had been sent during or immediately after the battle. What information it did contain was cryptic but vital. Confirmation that Pain possessed the Rinnegan, that he had 6 bodies sharing the same visual power, and a numeric code that made little sense without context. "He's gone," Tsunade stated quietly after deciphering what she could. Jiraiya wouldn't have sent such an incomplete message unless he had no choice. The loss hit Naruto with unexpected force. Despite their sometimes contentious relationship, Jiraiya had been more than a teacher. He had been family. One of the few adults who had truly seen Naruto as a person rather than a Jinchuriki or a weapon. In his mindscape that night, Kurama found Naruto sitting silently beneath the memory trees that had replaced the sewer of his younger years. "Grief is natural," the fox stated, surprising Naruto with the gentleness in his normally gruff voice. "Even for those of us who have lived centuries, you've lost people too?" Naruto asked, looking up at the massive being. "Many," Kurama confirmed. "Some in battle, some to time's passage. Sukuna himself died eventually, though it took a combined effort of multiple powerful sorcerers to finally end him. How do you deal with it?" "The loss." The fox considered this. "I remember, not just how they died, but how they lived, what they taught me, how they changed me. In that way, something of them continues." It was perhaps the most personal conversation they had ever shared, Kurama speaking not as an ancient power or strategic ally, but as someone who understood grief intimately. The moment marked a subtle but significant shift in their relationship, a deepening of trust that went beyond tactical cooperation. Naruto's morning was cut short by alarming intelligence. Multiple Akatsuki members, including Pain himself, had been spotted moving toward Fire Country. Their trajectories suggested Konoha as the target, with estimated arrival within days. "This is it," Tsunade declared during an emergency council meeting. "The direct assault we've been anticipating." Pain appears to be leading personally, suggesting this is no mere raiding party but a full-scale attack. Preparations began immediately. Civilians were evacuated to shelter areas, defensive positions were fortified, and combat squads organized under Jonin leadership. Naruto, recognized now as one of the village's most powerful assets against Akatsuki, was briefed separately. "Your primary objective will be Pain himself," Tsunade instructed. "Based on Jiraiya's final intelligence and your previous encounter, you're the only one with techniques that might counter the Rinnegan effectively." "I understand," Naruto replied, his expression solemn. But there's something you should know about my domain expansion. At full power, extended duration, it could potentially affect a significant portion of the village. Buildings, infrastructure within the domain might be damaged by reality distortion. Tsunade absorbed this with a grim nod. Buildings can be rebuilt. Lives cannot. Use whatever techniques necessary to neutralize the threat. The attack began at dawn 2 days later. Pain's 6 bodies, each wielding the Rinnegan and specialized abilities, breached Konoha's perimeter simultaneously from different directions, bypassing outer defenses with ease. They moved with coordinated precision, targeting communications centers, defensive strongpoints, and shinobi leadership. Naruto, positioned at a central location to respond where needed most, sensed the intrusion immediately. Enhanced by both Kurama's chakra and cursed energy perception, he could track multiple battlefield developments simultaneously. The main body, the one with gravitational techniques, is heading for the Hokage Tower, he reported to the ANBU coordinator beside him. The summoning specialist is creating diversions at the east and west gates. The absorption specialist is targeting our sensor network. How can you track them so precisely? The ANBU asked, impressed despite the crisis. Cursed energy perception, Naruto explained briefly. I can sense disruptions in natural energy flow, and these Rinnegan users create significant disturbances. Following Tsunade's strategy, Konoha's forces engaged the secondary bodies while Naruto moved to intercept the primary Pain, the one Jiraiya's intelligence had identified as the gravitational controller. This confrontation, they reasoned, would be decisive. He found Pain at the village center, using almighty push to devastate entire blocks with concussive force. Shinobi who approached were repelled or pulled into lethal close-quarter attacks. The destruction was methodical, seemingly designed to draw out the village's leadership through escalating civilian casualties. Pain, Naruto called out, landing on a rooftop opposite the Akatsuki leader. Your quarrel is with me. Leave the villagers out of this. The orange-haired figure turned, Rinnegan eyes fixing on Naruto with cold intensity. Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, your interference has become problematic. First the one tail, then the two tails. You've delayed our plans significantly. That was the idea, Naruto replied, gathering cursed energy around his body in visible purple-black swirls. And I'm about to delay them permanently. Pain studied the unusual energy with analytical interest. Your techniques during our last encounter were unexpected, non-chakra-based, capable of disrupting Rinnegan abilities. A Kekkei Genkai, perhaps? Something older, Naruto replied, echoing his explanation from their previous encounter. Something beyond your understanding. Nothing is beyond the understanding of a god, Pain stated with absolute conviction. Almighty push. The gravitational force erupted outward, powerful enough to shatter buildings and send debris flying in all directions. Naruto, prepared for this opening move, anchored himself with cursed energy while simultaneously creating a controlled spatial distortion that partially redirected the attack's force. What followed was a battle that would later be described in Konoha's historical records as the Confrontation of Realms. Pain's Rinnegan techniques, representing the pinnacle of chakra manipulation, against Naruto's cursed energy abilities, drawing on principles that predated the modern shinobi system entirely. Pain's gravitational techniques were countered by Naruto's spatial manipulation. When the Akatsuki leader summoned additional bodies to the battle, Naruto's dismantle severed their chakra connections. Attempts to absorb his energy failed when he switched from chakra to pure cursed energy, which the Rinnegan couldn't process. The turning point came when Pain, recognizing the threat Naruto posed, unleashed his most devastating technique. A massive planetary devastation intended to capture the Jinchuriki in an artificial satellite of compressed earth and stone. As the gravitational pull began drawing material upward, threatening to engulf him, Naruto made a calculated decision. Rather than resist the technique directly, he expanded his domain to its maximum extent yet attempted. Domain expansion, malevolent shrine, he called out, channeling every ounce of cursed energy he could muster. The purple-black dome expanded outward, encompassing not just the immediate battlefield but a significant portion of the village center. Within this space, where reality bent to Naruto's will, Pain's gravitational technique began to distort and destabilize. The artificial satellite, still forming above them, fragmented as conflicting laws of physics attempted to assert dominance. Impossible, Pain murmured, experiencing for the first time in years the sensation of his technique being fundamentally countered. This power, it doesn't operate on chakra principles at all. That's what I've been trying to tell you, Naruto replied, moving through the domain with perfect fluidity while Pain struggled against the altered physics. Your Rinnegan gives you mastery over the 5 nature transformations, over gravity and souls and mechanical constructs. But all of those are manipulations of the existing world. He approached Pain steadily, cursed energy swirling around him in increasingly complex patterns. My techniques don't manipulate the existing world. They impose a different reality entirely. Within this domain, I don't need to counter your techniques. They simply function differently than you expect. To demonstrate, he allowed Pain to attempt another almighty push. The technique activated, but instead of projecting outward in all directions, the gravitational force twisted into a spiral pattern that returned to its origin, effectively neutralizing itself. Pain's eyes widened slightly, the first real expression of surprise he had shown. This defies the fundamental principles of chakra manipulation. Exactly, Naruto confirmed. Because it isn't chakra manipulation, it's reality manipulation. With Pain's primary defensive technique compromised, Naruto pressed his advantage. A precisely aimed dismantle severed the chakra receivers embedded in the body, disrupting the connection to whoever was controlling it remotely. The orange-haired figure collapsed, now merely an empty vessel without its animating force. But Naruto's victory over the primary body was just the beginning. Across the village, the other Pain bodies continued their assault, adapting to the loss of their gravitational specialist. Maintaining his domain at this scale was consuming enormous energy, and Naruto recognized he couldn't sustain it indefinitely. I need to find the real controller, he communicated to Kurama. These bodies are just receivers, puppets controlled from somewhere nearby. Agreed, the fox replied. Jiraiya's intelligence suggested the real Pain would be stationary, channeling chakra from a secure location. Use your cursed energy perception to trace the control signals back to their source. Expanding his senses to their limit, Naruto detected faint disturbances in the natural energy field surrounding Konoha, traces of the immense chakra being projected to control the 6 paths of Pain. The source appeared to be a paper tree structure on the outskirts of the village, concealed by genjutsu and conventional barriers, leaving shadow clones to coordinate with Konoha's forces against the remaining Pain bodies. Naruto moved toward the identified location, his domain collapsing behind him as he focused his energy on speed and perception. The paper tree, upon closer inspection, proved to be an impressive creation of Conan's abilities, layer upon layer of paper sheets forming a protective cocoon around what Naruto sensed were 2 individuals, one with massive chakra output, presumably the real Pain, and another with the distinctive paper-based chakra signature of Conan herself. I know you're in there, Naruto called out, stopping at a respectful distance from the structure. The real controller of the 6 paths. We can end this without further destruction. There was a long pause before the paper petals began to unfold, revealing the interior. Seated in a mechanical chair was an emaciated red-haired man with Rinnegan eyes and numerous black receivers protruding from his back. Beside him stood Conan, her expression wary but composed. "You found me," the man stated, his voice weaker than the bodies he controlled, yet carrying the same cold authority. "Impressive. Few have ever traced the connection between my paths and myself." Nagato, Naruto identified, recalling Jiraiya's intelligence. "You were his student. One of the 3 orphans he trained during the war." A flicker of something, surprise, perhaps, or old memories, crossed the man's gaunt features. Jiraiya-sensei shared that information before his death? Sentimental to the end. "He believed in you," Naruto replied, maintaining a non-threatening posture while staying alert for attacks. "Even as you were killing him, he believed there was good in you, that your path was driven by pain, not malice." "Pain is the greatest teacher," Nagato stated, his conviction absolute. "Only through pain can people truly understand one another. The world will know pain, and through that shared experience, achieve peace. By collecting the tailed beasts? By creating a weapon so terrible everyone lives in fear?" Naruto challenged. "That's not peace. It's tyranny disguised as salvation." Conan shifted slightly, her paper beginning to flutter in preparation for potential combat. But Nagato raised a hand, stopping her. "You speak with conviction," he observed. "Tell me, Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, what is your vision of peace? How would you end the cycle of hatred that consumes the shinobi world?" It was a genuine question, not a rhetorical challenge, but an actual inquiry from someone who had pursued his own answer to this question through increasingly extreme measures, not through forced compliance. Naruto replied thoughtfully. "Peace requires understanding, connection, empathy. the recognition that others' pain is as real as our own. It's built through cooperation, through bonds that transcend village boundaries and historical grievances. Pretty words, Nagato commented, though without dismissal. But how do you create understanding between people who have centuries of reasons to hate each other? How do you build bonds between villages that have slaughtered each other's children? One relationship at a time, Naruto answered simply. The way Jiraiya tried to do with you and your friends. The way I'm trying to do now, talking to you instead of just fighting. This gave Nagato pause. For a moment, the cold god complex seemed to recede, revealing glimpses of the idealistic student Jiraiya had once taught. You sound like him, he finally said, his tone softer. The same naive optimism, the same unshakable belief in human potential. Is it naive to believe people can change? Naruto asked. You changed. From an orphan seeking survival to a student seeking justice to a leader seeking peace, albeit through methods I disagree with. If you could change so dramatically, why not others? The conversation might have continued, a philosophical debate between opposed ideologies, had they not been interrupted by a sudden explosion from the village center. One of the remaining pain bodies had detonated some kind of massive technique, creating a crater where several blocks had once stood. Your people continue to resist, Nagato observed, steel returning to his voice. They will learn through pain what cannot be taught through words. Stop this, Naruto urged. Call back your paths. We can find another way. There is no other way, Nagato insisted. The cycle of hatred can only be broken through overwhelming force, a pain so great it transcends all previous grievances. Seeing that words alone wouldn't sway the Akatsuki leader, Naruto made a difficult decision. With speed enhanced by both chakra and cursed energy, he closed the distance to Nagato before either he or Konan could react effectively. Rather than attacking, however, he placed his hand directly on Nagato's forehead, initiating a technique he had developed but never used in combat before. Domain expansion, inner shrine, he intoned softly. Unlike his standard domain, which affected physical space around him, this variant created a mindscape domain, connecting his consciousness directly to Nagato's. Within this shared mental space, where thoughts and memories could be exchanged without distortion, Naruto showed Nagato his own life experiences. The isolation of growing up as a Jinchuriki, the gradual formation of bonds with friends and mentors, the pain of losing Jiraiya, and most importantly, his evolving partnership with Kurama. This is my truth, Naruto communicated within the shared mindscape. Not just my words or philosophy, but my lived experience. And this, he guided them deeper, to where Kurama's presence waited, is the being you sought to extract and weaponize. Not a mindless chakra construct, but a thinking, feeling entity with his own history and perspective. Kurama, understanding the significance of this moment, allowed Nagato to perceive him clearly, not as the destructive force of legend, but as the ancient, complex being he truly was. You claim to be a god, the fox addressed Nagato directly. Yet you understand so little about the very powers you seek to control. The tailed beasts are not weapons to be wielded. We are the living legacy of the Sage of Six Paths, the same figure whose eyes you now possess. The combined impact of Naruto's memories and Kurama's direct address created something unprecedented. A three-way connection between Jinchuriki, tailed beast, and Rinnegan wielder. For perhaps the first time since receiving those legendary eyes, Nagato experienced chakra not as a tool for manipulation, but as a medium for genuine connection. When the technique ended and Naruto withdrew, Nagato remained silent for several long moments, processing what he had experienced. Konan watched with concern, prepared to defend her childhood friend but uncertain what had just transpired between them. I see, Nagato finally murmured, his voice lacking its previous absolute conviction. Jiraiya-sensei would say this was the true power of understanding, to experience another's life directly, without distortion. It is, Naruto confirmed. And it's available to everyone, not through techniques or special eyes, but through genuine effort to connect, to listen, to empathize. After another long silence, Nagato made his decision. With visible effort, he formed a hand seal, and across Konoha, the remaining pain bodies ceased their attacks, standing dormant where they had been fighting. Perhaps, he said slowly, there is merit in attempting another path. Not because your words convinced me, but because you showed me an alternative I hadn't considered, a different kind of connection between people. Relief flooded through Naruto, though he maintained a cautious optimism. Then you'll withdraw? End the attack. I will do more than that. Nagato replied, forming another series of hand seals. I will demonstrate my commitment to this alternative path. Chakra began to flow visibly from his emaciated body, channeling into a technique Naruto didn't recognize. Konan's eyes widened in alarm. Nagato, no, she protested. That technique will. It's all right, Konan. Nagato interrupted gently. This is my choice. My atonement. The technique completed, sending a wave of revitalizing chakra spreading outward from their location, washing over the entire village. As it passed through areas where fighting had occurred, fallen shinobi began to stir, wounds healing, life returning to those recently deceased. Rinnegan rebirth, Nagato explained, his voice growing weaker with each word. A technique that exchanges the user's life to restore those who have died. All those killed during my attack will live again. The cost was immediately apparent. With each passing second, Nagato's already frail body deteriorated further, life force draining away to fuel the massive technique. You don't have to do this, Naruto objected, recognizing the fatal nature of what was happening. There are other ways to make amends. No, Nagato replied with surprising peace. This is right. The student surpasses the teacher. Jiraiya placed his hope in understanding between people. I rejected that path for one of overwhelming force. Now you show me a third alternative, direct connection, true empathy. I entrust the future to your vision, Naruto Uzumaki. As the technique completed, Nagato slumped in his mechanical chair, life fading from his Rinnegan eyes. Konan caught him gently, tears falling openly now. He believed in you, she said quietly to Naruto. In the end, he chose to believe as Jiraiya did. The aftermath of Pain's assault was complex and multifaceted. The physical damage to Konoha was extensive, but thanks to Nagato's final technique, the human cost was remarkably low. Those who had died during the attack were restored to life, though many bore psychological scars from the experience. Konan departed with Nagato's body, intending to return him to Amigakure for proper burial. Before leaving, she provided Naruto with intelligence about the remaining Akatsuki members, particularly the masked man called Tobi, whom she revealed was the true power behind the organization. He calls himself Madara Uchiha, she explained. Whether that's his true identity or not, I cannot say, but his abilities exceed even Pain's in many ways. Be cautious, Naruto Uzumaki. Your path will inevitably cross with his. The information was troubling but valuable. If Tobi, or Madara, had been the true orchestrator of Akatsuki all along, then the threat was far from ended with Pain's death. In the weeks following the attack, as Konoha began rebuilding, Naruto found himself elevated to unprecedented status within the village, having faced Pain directly and somehow converted him from enemy to ally. At least in his final moments, Naruto was now viewed not just as a powerful shinobi, but as a potential diplomatic asset. Tsunade, recognizing this shift, began including him in strategic discussions that would once have been restricted to Jonin and council members. The 5 Kage Summit has been called, she informed him during one such meeting. Representatives from all 5 major villages will convene to discuss the Akatsuki threat. Given your direct experience with several of their members, your insights would be valuable. You want me to attend? Naruto asked, surprised. I'm not even a Chunin officially. Tsunade smiled wryly. Rank seems increasingly irrelevant in your case. But no, I will attend as Hokage, with Kakashi and Shikamaru as my advisors. I'm asking you to brief us thoroughly on your encounters, particularly with Pain, and what you learned about this Tobi character. The briefing session was comprehensive, with Naruto sharing everything from tactical observations about Akatsuki members' fighting styles to the philosophical underpinnings of Pain's worldview. Throughout, he was conscious of how much his perspective had evolved, no longer seeing enemies as simply obstacles to overcome, but as complex individuals driven by their own pain, beliefs, and histories. This masked Akatsuki leader concerns me most, Tsunade commented after absorbing the intelligence. If he's been manipulating events from the shadows, using even someone as powerful as Pain as a mere pawn, he's dangerous, Naruto agreed. And he has Sasuke now. This last point weighed heavily on him. After Itachi's death, Sasuke had fallen directly into the masked man's influence. What lies or truths might he be feeding the last Uchiha? What new path of darkness might Sasuke be following now? The 5 Kage Summit commenced in the neutral territory of the Land of Iron, with delegations from each major village arriving under heavy security. Tsunade departed with her advisors, leaving Konoha under the temporary leadership of the council elders. Naruto, though not officially part of the diplomatic mission, found himself restless as days passed with no news from the summit. Training helped distract him temporarily, as did assisting with reconstruction efforts. But an underlying sense of foreboding persisted, a feeling that crucial events were unfolding beyond his reach. His intuition proved correct when a messenger hawk arrived with urgent coding indicating a summit security breach. The encrypted message, when decoded, contained shocking information. The summit had been attacked by Sasuke Uchiha, apparently seeking vengeance against Danzo Shimura, who had attended as part of Konoha's delegation. More disturbingly, the masked Akatsuki leader had appeared personally, declaring himself Madara Uchiha and announcing his Moon's Eye plan, a scheme to cast a worldwide genjutsu using the collected tailed beasts. This changes everything. Shikaka Nara, acting as interim leader, stated grimly after reviewing the intelligence. If this Madara intends to weaponize all 9-tailed beasts for a global genjutsu, it would mean the end of free will. Naruto completed, the implications clear. Everyone trapped in an illusion, believing they're living in a perfect world while actually being controlled. The threat was unprecedented, not just to Konoha or the Land of Fire, but to the entire shinobi world. For the first time in generations, the 5 major villages were discussing actual alliance rather than the uneasy truces that had characterized inter-village relations for decades. When Tsunade returned, she brought news of this historic development: the formation of the Allied Shinobi Forces, a unified military entity comprising ninja from all 5 major villages, with additional support from smaller nations. Its sole purpose: to prevent Akatsuki from capturing the remaining Jinchuriki and implementing the Moon's Eye plan. This changes your status significantly, she informed Naruto directly. As one of only 2 remaining Jinchuriki, along with Killer Bee of the Hidden Cloud, you represent both our greatest asset and Akatsuki's primary target. The implications were clear. Naruto would need protection, which conflicted directly with his natural inclination to be on the front lines. I won't hide while others fight, he stated firmly. My abilities are too valuable to the Alliance. And frankly, I'm one of the few who can stand against Madara if his powers are anything close to what historical records suggest. Tsunade sighed, having anticipated this response. The other Kage feel differently. They want both remaining Jinchuriki secured on a remote island, protected by elite forces while the main alliance confronts Akatsuki. And what do you think? Naruto pressed. I think, Tsunade replied carefully, that you've earned the right to choose your own path. You're no longer the impulsive child who needed protection from himself. You've demonstrated both power and wisdom beyond your years. The compromise they reached was practical. Naruto would officially travel to the designated Sanctuary Island with Killer Bee for specialized training, but would remain ready to deploy if the battlefield situation demanded it. This satisfied Alliance protocols while leaving operational flexibility. The island's sanctuary proved to be an unexpected opportunity. Killer Bee, the 8-Tails Jinchuriki, was unlike any shinobi Naruto had encountered. An eccentric rapper with complete mastery over his tailed beast, with whom he shared a genuine friendship rather than merely a cooperative relationship. You and Nine got a different vibe, Bee observed after they had spent several days training together. Not control, not dominance, something more alive. Yeah, his unusual speech patterns aside, Bee's insight was perceptive. The relationship between Naruto and Kurama had evolved far beyond the traditional Jinchuriki-tailed beast dynamic. It wasn't merely cooperation for mutual benefit, but something approaching true partnership. We've been through a lot together, Naruto acknowledged. And he's taught me things about my bloodline that no one else could have. This piqued Bee's interest. Bloodline? You got something extra beyond the 9? That's divine. Naruto demonstrated a small-scale dismantle technique, slicing cleanly through a boulder without apparent effort. Cursed energy, he explained, from an ancestor called Sukuna. Kurama knew him centuries ago, recognized the bloodline when it activated after the sealing. Bee and his tailed beast, Gyuki, were fascinated by this revelation. The ability to wield an entirely separate energy system alongside tailed beast chakra was unprecedented in their experience. Two-system harmony, that's a rare sight, Bee rapped thoughtfully. 9 and cursed energy, making things right. Their training sessions became mutual exchanges of knowledge. Bee shared his techniques for perfect synchronization with his tailed beast, while Naruto demonstrated applications of cursed energy that the older Jinchuriki found endlessly intriguing. It was during one such session, while practicing a technique that merged Gyuki and Kurama's chakra temporarily, that they received the news. The Fourth Great Ninja War had officially begun. Akatsuki, led by the masked man now openly claiming to be Madara Uchiha, had fielded an army of white Zetsu clones and reanimated legendary shinobi against the allied forces. "We need to join the battle," Naruto insisted immediately, already preparing to depart. "Hold up, young blood. Rushing ain't good. Be cautioned. Orders say stay put, understood?" But Naruto's enhanced senses had already detected disturbances far beyond the island's boundaries. Massive chakra expenditures indicating significant battles, and something else, a subtle disruption in natural energy patterns that suggested powerful curse techniques being employed. "Something's wrong," he told me urgently. "There's a cursed energy signature on the battlefield, similar to mine, but corrupted, twisted. I need to investigate immediately." Despite the island guard's objections, Naruto and B departed, moving with the tremendous speed that Jinchuriki in full control of their powers could achieve. As they approached the mainland, the scale of the conflict became apparent. Thousands of shinobi engaged across multiple battlefronts, facing both white Zetsu infiltrators and legendary reanimated ninja from previous generations. Naruto's cursed energy sensing led them toward a particularly intense confrontation near the Alliance's eastern flank. There, they found a horrifying sight. Several hundred Alliance shinobi trapped within what appeared to be a corrupt version of a domain expansion. A sickly yellow-black energy dome, within which they were being systematically slaughtered by a reanimated figure wielding techniques disturbingly similar to Naruto's own. "Impossible," Naruto whispered, recognizing the signature despite never having seen its owner in life. "Sukuna." The reanimated figure turned at the name, a tall man with 4 arms, distinctively marked face, and eyes that burned with malevolent intelligence despite the unnatural black scara of the Edo Tensei technique. His mouth split in a smile that held no warmth, only predatory recognition. "So," he spoke, his voice carrying easily across the battlefield, "my bloodline lives on." "How interesting." Naruto stepped forward, signaling B to assist the trapped Alliance shinobi while he confronted this unexpected ancestor. "How is this possible? The historical records say you died centuries ago, long before the hidden village system was established. Death is rarely permanent for those of sufficient importance," Sukuna replied with casual arrogance. "Though I must admit, this particular resurrection technique is new to me. Fascinating application of soul manipulation." His gaze sharpened as he studied Naruto more carefully. "You've been using my techniques. Dismantle, cleave, even a variant of my domain. Self-taught? Or did you have assistance?" The knowing tone suggested he already suspected the answer. Naruto confirmed it directly. "Kurama guided me. He recognized your bloodline when it activated." Sukuna's expression shifted to something like nostalgic amusement. "The fox still exists, then? How sentimental of him to remember our little arrangement after all these centuries." Before Naruto could respond, Sukuna launched an attack, not with cursed energy as expected, but with surprising speed and physical strength, closing the distance between them instantly. Four arms moved in complex patterns, each executing a different attack vector simultaneously. Naruto countered with enhanced reflexes, blocking or deflecting most strikes, while using cursed energy to strengthen his body against the impacts that connected. The exchange was brief but telling. Sukuna's combat experience was vast, his technique refined by centuries of battle, but Naruto's dual energy system provided adaptability the ancient sorcerer hadn't anticipated. "Interesting," Sukuna commented as they separated. "You're channeling both cursed energy and chakra simultaneously. The fox's contribution, I presume? In my era, such hybridization was considered impossible." "Times change," Naruto replied, gathering purple-black energy around his arms. "And some techniques improve with evolution." What followed was a battle that Alliance witnesses would later describe in almost mythological terms. Sukuna, even constrained by the Edo Tensei's limitations, demonstrated why he had been called the King of Curses. His domain expansion encompassed a massive area, within which his cursed techniques manifested with devastating precision. Traditional shinobi found their chakra techniques distorted or weakened, while physical combat against his four arms proved nearly impossible. Naruto countered with his own domain expansion, creating the unprecedented situation of two overlapping domains struggling for dominance. Where the boundaries met, reality itself seemed to fracture, creating unpredictable effects that endangered everyone nearby. Impressive, Sukuna acknowledged as their domains contested. But ultimately futile. My techniques were perfected over centuries. Yours are what? A few years in development? The difference in refinement, is insurmountable. Maybe in a contest of pure cursed energy, Naruto conceded, shifting his strategy. But I'm not limited to that single system. Channeling Kurama's chakra alongside his cursed energy, Naruto created a hybrid form that glowed with both golden-orange chakra and purple-black cursed energy. The combination generated a unique resonance that began disrupting Sukuna's domain from within, not opposing it directly, but creating harmonics that gradually destabilized its structure. Clever, Sukuna observed, genuine appreciation in his voice despite the challenge to his supremacy. Using the fox's chakra as a counterpoint to cursed energy, creating interference patterns. I never considered such an approach. As their battle intensified, Naruto realized something crucial. Despite being enemies in this moment, fighting on opposite sides of the war, there was an unmistakable teacher-student dynamic emerging between them. Sukuna, for all his cruelty and arrogance, seemed genuinely interested in how his techniques had evolved through Naruto's adaptations. Your domain concept is innovative, the ancient sorcerer commented during a momentary pause in their combat. I always viewed it as a space to trap opponents, to ensure my techniques couldn't be avoided. You've developed it as a cooperative environment, strengthening allies while hindering enemies. Pragmatic, this unexpected dynamic created an opportunity. While maintaining combat readiness, Naruto attempted a different approach, one inspired by his experience with Nagato. You're being controlled by the Edo Tensei, he stated directly. Fighting for someone else's cause. Does that suit the King of Curses? Being another's puppet. Sukuna's expression darkened momentarily. An unpleasant circumstance, I admit. This technique binds the soul rather effectively. But don't mistake strategic compliance for submission. I have my own interests in this conflict, which are observation, evaluation. Sukuna's four arms gestured broadly, indicating the war-torn landscape around them. This world you've built in the centuries since my death. Hidden villages, chakra techniques derived from what was once purely spiritual energy, mechanical devices that would have seemed magical in my era. Fascinating evolution, if somewhat lacking in aesthetic refinement. The conversation was interrupted by a massive explosion several kilometers distant. Another battlefront where allied forces appeared to be struggling against reanimated legendary shinobi. Your allies are dying, Sukuna observed dispassionately. While we engage in philosophical discussion, prioritization has never been humanity's strength. You're right, Naruto acknowledged, making a decision. Which is why I'm ending this now. Gathering both chakra and cursed energy in unprecedented quantities, he formed a unique hand seal. Not the traditional shinobi signs, but an ancient mudra that incorporated elements of both chakra channeling and cursed energy manipulation. Domain expansion, harmonious shrine, he intoned. The technique that manifested was unlike anything either combatant had executed before. A domain that didn't merely impose the creator's reality, but established a negotiated middle ground where different energy systems could coexist and interact without conflict. Within this space, both Naruto's and Sukuna's techniques functioned, but neither dominated completely. Fascinating, Sukuna murmured, examining the domain's structure with expert perception. A metadomain that encompasses contradictory realities without forcing resolution. The theoretical complexity is impressive. More importantly, the technique created an environment where communication transcended verbal exchange. Similar to Naruto's mindscape connection with Nagato, but more sophisticated, it allowed direct understanding between domain creator and participant. Not control or domination, but genuine comprehension. Through this connection, Naruto shared not just his own experiences, but the broader context of the current conflict. Madara's Moon's Eye plan, the threat to free will it represented, the unprecedented alliance of formerly hostile villages against a common existential threat. Sukuna absorbed this information with analytical precision, neither sympathetic nor dismissive. Ambitious, he finally commented regarding Madara's plan, using the tailed beasts as chakra batteries to power a global illusion. Technically feasible, though ethically questionable even by my rather flexible standards. Will you continue fighting for his cause? Naruto asked directly. Now that you understand what's at stake, the ancient sorcerer considered this, for arms crossed in a gesture that somehow conveyed both contemplation and relaxed confidence. The Edo Tensei leaves limited room for disobedience. However, a slow, calculating smile spread across his marked face. Summoners often make the mistake of believing that because they control the body, they control the will. A dangerous assumption when dealing with a specialist in domain manipulation. With that cryptic statement, Sukuna made a complex gesture with all 4 hands simultaneously, creating a cursed technique pattern that somehow interfaced with the Edo Tensei's control formula. The black scara characteristic of reanimation flickered momentarily, replaced by more natural coloration before reverting. There, he stated with satisfaction. Not freedom, but increased operational latitude. Sufficient for my purposes, which are, Naruto pressed. Observation, as I said. This conflict represents a fascinating culmination of centuries of shinobi evolution. I find myself curious about its resolution. Sukuna's expression became analytical, almost academic. Additionally, I admit some interest in how my bloodline has developed through you. There's potential there worth nurturing. It wasn't an alliance, exactly, but neither was it continued hostility. Sukuna was proposing a stance of neutrality, coupled with what seemed like tentative mentorship, a chance to share knowledge accumulated over centuries that might otherwise be lost again when the Edo Tensei eventually ended. Before they could explore this unexpected development further, their attention was drawn to a massive chakra surge from the main battlefield. The signature was unmistakable. The Ten Tails, apparently reformed and under Madara's control. It seems events are accelerating, Sukuna observed. Your alliance appears to be losing rather definitively. Then that's where I need to be, Naruto decided. Are you coming? The ancient sorcerer's expression was unreadable for a moment before settling into something between amusement and curiosity. To witness the potential end of the shinobi world? Certainly. Educational opportunities of this magnitude are rare, even for those of us who have lived multiple lifetimes. Their arrival at the main battlefield created momentary confusion among allied forces. Naruto, their celebrated hero, appearing alongside what appeared to be an enemy reanimation. Quick explanation established a tenuous acceptance of Sukuna's neutral status, though many commanders remained understandably wary. The situation they found was dire. Madara, having successfully extracted the 8 and 9 Tails chakra from captured portions, had merged with the 10 Tails to become its Jinchuriki. The transformation granted him power approaching that of the Sage of 6 Paths himself, allowing him to decimate Alliance forces with ease. Problematic, Sukuna assessed clinically, observing Madara's demonstrations of reality warping abilities. He's accessing primordial chakra in its raw form, similar in some ways to cursed energy, but with different fundamental properties. Can he be defeated? Naruto asked directly. Directly? Unlikely. His energy output exceeds anything sustainable by normal human physiology. However, Sukuna's 4 arms gestured in complex analytical patterns. His control is imperfect. The 10 Tails isn't fully integrated with his consciousness. There's disequilibrium in the merger that might be exploitable. This insight proved valuable as they joined the desperate alliance efforts to counter Madara's onslaught. Rather than confronting his power directly, Naruto and Sukuna coordinated their domain techniques to create localized disruptions in the Ten Tails chakra flow, preventing Madara from fully harnessing its potential. The battle evolved into something beyond traditional shinobi combat, more akin to a contest between reality-defining principles, with chakra, cursed energy, and the Ten Tails' primordial power all imposing different interpretations of how the physical world should function. In the midst of this cosmic-scale conflict, Sasuke Uchiha arrived unexpectedly, having apparently broken free from Madara's influence. His presence added another layer of complexity to the already chaotic situation. Naruto, he acknowledged with characteristic brevity, his evolved Sharingan taking in the unprecedented battlefield dynamics. This has escalated beyond our old rivalry. Way beyond, Naruto agreed, maintaining a complex cursed energy technique while they spoke. Willing to set that aside for now. Sasuke's nod was curt but definitive. For now, with Sasuke's Sharingan abilities complementing Naruto's dual energy techniques and Sukuna's ancient expertise, they established a temporary equilibrium against Madara's overwhelming power. It wasn't victory, but it prevented immediate defeat, creating space for alliance forces to regroup and implement more strategic approaches. The turning point came unexpectedly through Obito Uchiha, revealed as the masked Madara, who had orchestrated much of Akatsuki's activities. Having been defeated and then reformed through Naruto's persistent belief in redemption, he now turned against his former mentor, using his unique abilities to extract portions of the tailed beasts from Madara's control. This disruption, combined with the coordinated efforts of Naruto, Sasuke, and Sukuna, created a critical vulnerability. For a brief moment, Madara's connection to the Ten Tails destabilized completely, providing an opening for a decisive strike. Now, Naruto called out, channeling unprecedented amounts of both cursed energy and Kurama's chakra into a hybrid technique developed specifically for this confrontation. Domain expansion, Sovereign's Purge, he intoned, the formal name emerging intuitively for a technique he had never executed before. The domain that manifested was unlike any previous version, neither imposing Naruto's reality nor creating a negotiated middle ground, but rather a space that stripped away artificial constructs and enhancements, returning entities to their fundamental nature. Within this purging environment, Madara's connection to the Ten Tails was not merely disrupted, but systematically dismantled, the unnaturally forced merger reversing despite his desperate attempts to maintain it. Impossible, Madara raged as tailed beast chakra began separating from his form. This power was my destiny. No, Naruto countered, maintaining the domain through sheer will despite the enormous energy expenditure. You forced a merger that was never meant to be. True power isn't taken, it's understood, respected, partnered with. As if demonstrating this principle, Kurama's chakra flowed freely through Naruto's system, perfectly synchronized with his cursed energy output, not competing energy sources, but complementary aspects of a harmonized whole. This living example of cooperative power stood in stark contrast to Madara's approach of domination and control. The extraction process was neither clean nor complete. As the Ten Tails chakra separated from Madara, it created unpredictable energy surges that threatened everyone nearby. More concerningly, the process revealed that Madara had implemented failsafes, contingency techniques that activated automatically when his control was threatened. He's initiating the infinite Tsukuyomi regardless, Sasuke warned, his Rinnegan detecting the massive Genjutsu formula being inscribed on the moon itself through reflected chakra. Can it be stopped? Naruto asked urgently, maintaining his domain while searching for options. Not conventionally, Sukuna interjected, his expression thoughtful rather than concerned. A Genjutsu of that scale, using celestial bodies as anchors. Ingenious, if megalomaniacal. Not helping, Naruto growled. On the contrary, the ancient sorcerer countered. I'm offering perspective. This technique operates on chakra principles, a system that didn't exist in its current form during my era. It has no framework for interpreting or affecting cursed energy users. The implication was significant. Those wielding cursed energy might be naturally immune to the infinite Tsukuyomi's effects, but that offered protection only to Naruto and potentially Sukuna himself, not the thousands of Alliance shinobi or millions of civilians worldwide. We need a broader solution, Naruto insisted. Something that can shield everyone. Sukuna's four arms moved in complex analytical patterns, assessing options with centuries of specialized knowledge. A global counterdomain might theoretically work, establishing an alternative reality framework that neutralizes the Genjutsu's influence. But the energy requirements would be. He paused, calculating. Beyond even my capabilities at full power, let alone in this reanimated state. What about combined output? Naruto suggested. My chakra and cursed energy, your expertise, Sasuke's visual prowess, the remaining tailed beasts, a cooperative domain on a global scale? Sukuna seemed genuinely intrigued by the concept. Unprecedented, theoretically possible, but the synchronization requirements would be extraordinarily precise. As they discussed this possibility, the lunar Genjutsu continued forming. Light from the moon began taking on an unnatural quality, the first tendrils of the technique reaching toward Earth. We need to act now, Sasuke urged. Whatever the plan, it happens immediately or not at all. The solution emerged through an unexpected source, a fading connection to the Sage of Six Paths himself, manifesting temporarily through the combined presence of his chakra in both Naruto and Sasuke. This spiritual echo of the legendary figure provided crucial insights into countering the technique his mother had once attempted and that Madara now sought to complete. With the sage's guidance, they established parameters for a counter technique of unprecedented scale, a cooperative domain that would incorporate aspects of cursed energy, tailed beast chakra, and the Uchiha's visual prowess into a protective field encompassing the entire Alliance army as a minimum, and potentially much further. The principle is sound, the sage's manifestation confirmed. But the execution requires perfect harmony between fundamentally different energy systems. Such cooperation has never been achieved in recorded history. Then we'll be the first, Naruto stated with characteristic determination. Kurama, within his mindscape, the fox regarded him with something approaching pride. We've come this far together. One more impossible task seems fitting. The technique required precise positioning and perfect synchronization. Naruto at the center, channeling both cursed energy and Kurama's chakra in perfect balance. Sasuke providing the visual framework through his Rinnegan. Sukuna contributing ancient domain formulas that predated the modern chakra system. The remaining tailed beasts, partially freed from Madara's control, offering their unique chakra signatures to complete the energetic spectrum. Domain expansion, World Sanctuary. Naruto called out, the name emerging not from his own mind, but from the collective consciousness of all participants. A technique created through genuine cooperation rather than individual will. The domain that manifested was unlike anything previously recorded in shinobi history. Rather than a localized sphere of altered reality, it expanded outward in waves, establishing a protective field that neutralized the infinite Tsukuyomi's influence wherever it touched. The boundary between protected and unprotected areas was visible from space, a spreading pattern of golden-purple light counteracting the silver-white glow of Madara's technique. The effort required to maintain this global-scale domain was immense. Even with perfect cooperation between all participants, the energy expenditure threatened to consume them entirely. Naruto, at the technique's center, bore the greatest burden, channeling cursed energy, tailed beast chakra, and his own life force in quantities that pushed the boundaries of human survival. It's working, Sasuke observed, his Rinnegan tracking the technique's spread. The Jinjutsu is being neutralized wherever our domain touches, but too slowly, Sukuna countered clinically. At the current rate of expansion, significant portions of the world will be entrapped before we achieve full coverage. Then we need more power, Naruto concluded, making a momentous decision. Kurama, are you with me on this? Within their shared mindscape, the fox understood immediately what he was proposing. Not just channeling Kurama's chakra, but a complete synchronization, removing the barriers between their consciousnesses entirely. It was a level of partnership no Jinchuriki and tailed beast had ever attempted, with unknown consequences for both entities. Are you certain? Kurama asked, genuine concern in his voice. This goes beyond anything we've done before. The risk to your identity, your very self. I trust you, Naruto replied simply. Do you trust me? The question hung between them, profound in its simplicity, extraordinary in its implications. After centuries of being sealed within human hosts, viewed as a weapon or a burden, Kurama was being offered true partnership based on mutual respect and trust. I do, the fox finally answered, his voice carrying emotions that would have been unimaginable years earlier. Let's finish this together, partner. The synchronization that followed transcended conventional understanding of Jinchuriki-tailed beast relationships. Rather than Naruto drawing on Kurama's power, or Kurama acting through Naruto's body, they achieved something unprecedented. A harmonized state where neither dominated, where both existed simultaneously as distinct yet unified consciousnesses. The effect on their domain was immediate and dramatic. The protective field accelerated its expansion exponentially, overtaking the spreading infinite Tsukuyomi with visible momentum. Where the techniques met, Madara's Jinjutsu dissipated like mist before sunlight. Sensing the threat to his plan, Madara launched a desperate counterattack, attempting to disrupt the domain's focal point, Naruto himself. The assault was met by coordinated defense from Sasuke, Sukuna, and alliance forces, creating space for the technique to continue uninterrupted. The conflict reached its climax as the competing techniques approached global coverage. Madara, recognizing his impending defeat, attempted one final gambit, a self-destructive technique designed to take his opponents with him into oblivion. If I cannot reshape reality, he declared with mad determination, then reality itself shall end. The suicidal technique began drawing in massive amounts of natural energy, threatening to create an uncontrolled reaction that would devastate the battlefield and potentially much further. It was a spiteful last resort from a man who preferred destruction to defeat. Sukuna, observing the developing technique with experienced eyes, recognized its mechanics instantly. Uncontrolled natural energy absorption, he assessed. Crude but effective. The resulting discharge will be substantial. Can it be contained? Sasuke demanded, maintaining his position despite the growing danger. Theoretically, the ancient sorcerer replied, for arms already moving in complex patterns. But it requires direct intervention at the source, containing the reaction from within. Understanding dawned on Naruto with chilling clarity. You're talking about a suicide mission. Whoever contains it won't survive the energy discharge. Precisely, Sukuna confirmed without emotion. A localized domain around Madara himself, preventing the energy from escaping. The domain creator would, of course, be within the reaction zone. Before Naruto could volunteer, which everyone present knew he would, Sukuna made his decision. As it happens, I'm already dead, he stated with sardonic amusement. The advantages of reanimation, limited consequence for additional dying. Without waiting for debate, the ancient sorcerer moved with startling speed toward Madara, all four arms forming complex, cursed energy patterns simultaneously. Domain expansion, coffin of the Iron Mountain, he called out, establishing a tightly focused domain directly around Madara and himself. Unlike previous domains designed for combat or protection, this technique was purely containment, an impenetrable barrier preventing anything inside from affecting the external world. As the natural energy Madara had gathered began its catastrophic reaction, the domain held firm, confining the destruction to an area measured in meters rather than kilometers. From outside, observers witnessed the domain contract inward, condensing the enormous energies into an ever smaller space until it imploded with a sound like distant thunder, significant but contained, devastating but localized. When the dust settled, neither Madara nor Sukuna remained, both consumed by the controlled reaction. What lingered, however, was their global protective domain, still expanding outward under the combined power of Naruto, Kurama, Sasuke, and the other participants. It's done, Sasuke confirmed as the technique achieved full coverage, neutralizing the last vestiges of the infinite Tsukuyomi worldwide. Madara's plan has failed. The victory was comprehensive but carried significant costs. Many had fallen during the extended conflict. The landscape itself bore scars that would take decades to heal, and Naruto, having maintained the central position in their global technique, had expended energy at levels that threatened his very survival. As the immediate threat passed and the domain began its controlled dissolution, he collapsed, consciousness fading despite Kurama's efforts to sustain him. His last awareness was of concerned faces surrounding him, Sasuke's usually stoic expression showing genuine worry, medical ninja rushing forward, distant voices calling his name with increasing urgency. Then darkness. Naruto's recovery was neither quick nor certain. The unprecedented chakra and cursed energy expenditure had taken a toll that even his extraordinary healing abilities struggled to address. For days, he remained unconscious, monitored by the Alliance's best medical ninja while friends and comrades maintained vigil. Within his mindscape, however, activity continued. Kurama, having achieved a level of synchronization with Naruto that transcended previous Jinchuriki relationships, worked tirelessly to stabilize their shared energy systems and repair the damage caused by their final technique. You pushed far beyond safe limits, the Fox observed in their shared mental space, which now resembled a vast forest clearing rather than the cage-like sewer of earlier years. Even for someone with your resilience, there are consequences to channeling that much power. Worth it, Naruto replied weakly, his mental presence flickering but stable. We stopped Madara, saved everyone from the Genjutsu. At nearly the cost of your life, Kurama countered, genuine concern evident in his voice. That was reckless, says the 1,000-year-old chakra entity who fully synchronized with me despite the unknown risks. Naruto responded with a hint of his old humor. We're both reckless, apparently. The exchange carried none of the antagonism that had characterized their early interactions. Instead, there was warmth, mutual respect, and something neither had anticipated developing between Jinchuriki and Tailed Beast, genuine friendship. Sukuna sacrificed himself, Naruto noted after a comfortable silence. Despite everything history says about his selfishness and cruelty, he was complicated, Kurama acknowledged. Cruel and arrogant, certainly, but also fascinating, innovative, occasionally even principled in his own way. Our partnership during his lifetime was educational. You miss him, Naruto observed, recognizing something in the fox's tone. Perhaps, Kurama admitted, though I suspect he achieved exactly what he wanted in the end. A memorable exit, preserving his techniques through you, and avoiding the indignity of being controlled by the Edo Tensei long-term. Very much his style. When Naruto finally regained consciousness a week after the battle, he found the world significantly changed. The Alliance, formed as a temporary measure against Akatsuki and Madara, was evolving into something more permanent, a framework for ongoing cooperation between villages that had spent generations in conflict. His role in this new world order was both celebrated and complex. To many, He represented the ideal of cooperation. The Jinchuriki who had formed a true partnership with his tailed beast, who had fought alongside shinobi from all villages without discrimination. His unique abilities, combining traditional chakra techniques with the mysterious cursed energy system, positioned him as a bridge between different power traditions. More personally significant was the evolution of key relationships in his life. Sasuke, having witnessed Naruto's willingness to sacrifice everything to protect others, found his own perspective shifted. The revenge that had driven him for so long seemed hollow compared to the bonds Naruto had forged, bonds that had ultimately proven stronger than Madara's hatred or the ancient conflicts between villages. "I still have my own path to follow," Sasuke stated during one of their conversations during Naruto's recovery. "There are truths about the shinobi world, about the Uchiha massacre, about Konoha itself that need to be addressed." "I know," Naruto acknowledged, "but that path doesn't have to be walked alone. And it doesn't have to lead away from everything and everyone you've known." Sasuke's response wasn't immediate acceptance. His journey toward redemption would be longer and more complex than that. But the foundation had been established, the first steps taken toward healing a friendship that had seemed irreparably damaged at the Valley of the End years earlier. More profound still was the continued evolution of Naruto's relationship with Kurama. Their synchronization during the final battle had permanently altered their connection, creating a partnership unlike any previously recorded between Jinchuriki and Tailed Beast. They existed now in a state of harmonized distinctness, separate consciousnesses sharing experiences, knowledge, and energy without barriers. "This changes everything the shinobi world believes about tailed beasts," Tsunade observed during an examination of their unique condition. "Not weapons to be controlled, but potential partners with their own wisdom and perspective." "That was always true," Naruto replied. "The problem wasn't the tailed beasts, it was how humans approach them. Control and domination create resistance. Respect and partnership create strength beyond what either could achieve alone." This philosophy, validated by the undeniable results of their cooperation, began spreading throughout the alliance. Other Jinchuriki, particularly Killer Bee, shared their own experiences of positive relationships with their tailed beasts. Gradually, centuries of fear and mistrust began giving way to cautious exploration of more balanced approaches. Naruto's recovery continued slowly but steadily. The integration of his chakra system, cursed energy pathways, and Kurama's power had been fundamentally altered by their final technique. Not damaged, but evolved into something new that his body needed time to adapt to. "Your cursed energy signature has changed," Tsunade noted during one examination. "It's more harmonized with your chakra now. Less distinction between the systems." The tri-spirit fusion, Naruto confirmed. "My natural chakra, Kurama's power, and Sukuna's bloodline, not separate forces anymore, but aspects of a unified whole." This evolution manifested in his techniques as well. Domain expansion no longer required explicit differentiation between chakra and cursed energy. It flowed naturally from his integrated energy system. Dismantle and cleave became more intuitive, less formulaic. Even his healing abilities through reverse curse technique gained efficiency through the harmonization. As physical recovery progressed, Naruto began considering his future role in the changed shinobi world. The Hokage position, once his loudly proclaimed ambition, remained a possibility, but his perspective had broadened significantly. Perhaps his greatest contribution wouldn't be leading a single village, but helping maintain the unprecedented cooperation between all villages. "You've become something beyond traditional shinobi classification," Kakashi observed during one strategy session. "Not just in power, but in perspective. You see connections and possibilities others miss." "I've had good teachers," Naruto replied with a small smile. "A perverted sage, a gambling Hokage, an ancient fox, and even the king of curses himself for a brief period. Hard not to gain some perspective from that combination." The rebuilding period following the war brought opportunities to implement this expanded perspective. Working alongside representatives from all 5 major villages, Naruto helped establish new protocols for Jinchuriki-tailed beast relationships based on cooperation rather than control. His unique cursed energy techniques were studied, though rarely replicated, to develop new approaches to healing, barrier creation, and spatial manipulation. Most significantly, he maintained regular communication with all tailed beasts, not just Kurama, establishing himself as a mediator between these ancient entities and the human world that had feared them for so long. Through these connections, historical misunderstandings were gradually addressed, ancient grudges carefully dissolved. Throughout this period of reconstruction and reconciliation, Naruto's partnership with Kurama continued deepening. What had begun as reluctant cooperation evolved through strategic alliance and blossomed into genuine friendship, now matured into something for which the shinobi world had no precedent. A harmonized existence where Jinchuriki and Tailed Beast maintained distinct identities while sharing a unified purpose. "We've come a long way from that sewer mindscape," Naruto commented during one of their internal conversations, referring to their first contentious meetings years earlier. "Indeed," Kurama agreed, surveying the vast forest that now represented their shared mental space. "From you stealing my chakra and me plotting your demise to whatever this is. Friendship," Naruto supplied simply. "Partnership, family, even in our own strange way." The fox didn't object to these characterizations, a tacit acceptance that would have been unimaginable during their early relationship. Instead, he offered a perspective that encompassed his centuries of existence. "In all my years since the Sage of Six Paths created the tailed beasts, I've never experienced this kind of connection," he admitted. "With Sukuna, there was mutual respect and strategic alignment. With previous Jinchuriki, there was containment and occasional cooperation. But this," he gestured to the harmonized space they shared. "This is unprecedented. Good unprecedented or bad unprecedented?" Naruto asked with a hint of his old mischievousness. Kurama's rumbling chuckle carried no malice, only genuine amusement. "Good, kid. Definitely good." As the shinobi world settled into its new era of cooperation, as villages rebuilt and new generations began training under philosophies that emphasized connection rather than competition, Naruto Uzumaki stood as a living embodiment of the power of bonds between humans and tailed beasts, between different energy systems, between former enemies now working toward shared goals. The journey from feared Jinchuriki to respected leader had been neither short nor easy. It had required confronting hatred with understanding, meeting fear with compassion, and transforming ancient animosities into unprecedented alliances. It had demanded growth not just in power, but in wisdom, not just in technique, but in perspective. Standing atop the Hokage monument, overlooking a Konoha rebuilt and renewed, Naruto reflected on this extraordinary path. Beside him, not physically visible to others, but ever present in their shared consciousness, Kurama observed with him, their perspectives harmonized but distinct. "What next?" the fox inquired, sensing Naruto's contemplative mood. "There's still so much to do," Naruto replied, gesturing toward the horizon beyond the village. "Other nations still recovering from the war. Former Akatsuki territories needing stability. Sasuke's ongoing journey to find his own redemption. Always more challenges," Kurama noted, though without pessimism. "But also more opportunities." Naruto smiled at this characteristically balanced assessment. "Exactly, and we'll face them as we've faced everything else since figuring out how to work together. As partners," the fox confirmed. "As friends," Naruto added. The distinction was meaningful. Partnership suggested strategic alignment, but friendship encompassed something deeper, more personal, more enduring. Their journey had transformed them both. The boy once feared for the destructive power he contained had become a man respected for the connections he forged. The ancient entity once dreaded as a force of pure malevolence had become a trusted advisor, protector, and friend. Together, they represented not just the possibility of cooperation between humans and tailed beasts, but the broader potential for understanding across all boundaries, between villages, between generations, between seemingly incompatible energy systems, between entities separated by centuries of existence. As the sun set over Konoha, casting long shadows across the rebuilt village, Naruto felt a profound sense of both accomplishment and anticipation. The path behind them had been extraordinary, filled with challenges that had seemed insurmountable, victories that had required unprecedented cooperation, and growth that had transformed them both fundamentally. The path ahead promised new challenges, new connections, new opportunities to demonstrate that true strength came not from domination, but from understanding, not from isolation, but from bonds freely formed and carefully maintained. "Ready?" he asked Kurama, though the question encompassed far more than their immediate plans. The fox's response carried millennia of experience, centuries of solitude, and the hard-won wisdom of their shared journey. Together, always. In that simple exchange lay the culmination of their extraordinary evolution, from feared Jinchuriki and dreaded tailed beast to the embodiment of a new kind of strength founded on mutual respect, shared purpose, and genuine friendship. It was a transformation neither could have imagined when their paths first crossed, yet one that had fundamentally reshaped not just their individual destinies, but the future of the entire shinobi world. And in that transformation lay their greatest legacy, proof that even the most entrenched hatreds could be overcome, that even the most fearsome powers could be harmonized, that even the most ancient enemies could become the closest allies, if only they found the courage to see beyond fear to the potential for connection that existed all along.
That would be all. I hope you'll love it. Subscribe for more. Stay legendary, fam.